if we can move formally into characterization here, we've got Eren, Mikasa, and Armin with big tables to their own, and the rest of the side characters in front of us here. We've kind of lightly touched on characterization throughout the whole thing. I'm pretty sure we already did a big portion on Pixis. I might have already gone through my Mikasa talking points a little bit, but we'll try to start with Eren, and then we'll split off and see where we go here. Um, Ari, you seem to have the top note here, and the more general one,
Indeed.
because mine immediately goes into Mikasa stuff. So if we want to start with Eren, I think we
Oh
should start with
god,
you.
alright. Okay, well, when it comes to Eren characterization, so because there's a lot of, when it comes to Eren, at least to me, considering what happens at the end of the story, there's a lot of contradictions where on one hand he's like all about freedom, but on the other hand he's all about his friends, and then on the other hand he's like he knows what he's doing is wrong, and I don't know, but for me, this early Eren, like on the read through, the reread, I guess, there's three elements to him that I think are really like stand out to me. The first is about him being raised in Shiganshina specifically, which is an outer crop of the outermost wall. So, like, I wonder what, like, it, to me, like, it's interesting that that's where he was raised specifically. Like, essentially, it's his meters within freedom, like his whole upbringing. So I wonder
Yeah.
what type of like influence that had on him when he was growing up. Um, and which is again a bit of a contradiction because we haven't got to this yet in the reread, but I know later on he, um, on reflecting on like his childhood, he says that he didn't really care about freedom much until Armin showed him his book about the outside
Yeah.
world. So
He's just staring at the clouds.
yeah, so it's interesting to see like how much of his desire for freedom comes from his upbringing, how much of it comes from like the people around him, I guess, like his relationships. Um, And I don't have an answer
There's
really. I don't know. Like I guess the thing I would bring up is the question of if he was raised somewhere else, like say an inner wall, or even just not like an outcrop of the outmost wall, like just anywhere else, would he have had such a visceral like reaction to Armin's book, like of the idea of being free? Like would he have seen something possible, or would he have just not like it'd be like, oh, it's a distant dream, not something achievable? Um, so yeah.
I have never really thought about it being like right there because it is. It's like like
Yeah.
the wall ends right where he is. But him living, I don't know. This is kind of logistic, and this isn't the point I wanted to go into, but I've started up. The logistics I've always viewed it as is like Grisha wanted to help the most amount of people, so he went to like I assume it is the poorer area because the poorer citizens live closest to where the Titans would attack. I
Mm.
assume that's besides the underground, which is just like the poorest of the poor
Well, the
slums.
underground is where the poor of the inner walls live, I guess.
Yeah.
The thing is, I feel like
Um,
Shiganshina is actually fairly well off, but because it is like a
I feel
town, like I imagine the people living in like sort of these empty sort of villages in the within Wall Mario would probably have the hardest
yeah,
time
like
of it.
Yeah, true. They do
Like
make a point
Sasha
about that,
and
I
her
think, where they're
family.
like the outcrops have, because they're so concentrated and they get the military and stuff, they have like economic benefits or something. I remember
oh yeah,
reading
there
that
is a whole
somewhere.
side thing about
Yeah,
that at one of the end of the volumes. That actually is a good point.
yeah.
um, the the actual point I wanted to go to is there is, I think it is at the very beginning of the Return to Shinganshina arc. They do a bunch of redraws. By they, I mean Isayama. I say they a little bit too often. Um, fuck me. The there is one of the redraws he does is an interpretation of the like Eren, like the night after he's first shown the book, and like the covers are pulled up to his face, and and the monologue over the top of the panel is something like it wasn't until that day that like he knew that he wasn't free, or and that he was shitty about it. He was like, it was only then that I noticed that like things had been taken from me, and he's got like this determined look in his eye that's almost scary, especially in retrospect after what he does later on. I think Eren being like kind of shitty, like kind of being pissed off about everything, and kind of, I don't know if cynical is the right word, but kind of pissy, kind of shitty about everything is kind of a core part of his, like, I guess, rebellious attitude, his rebellious character. And I think this does tie into maybe that comes from being in Shinganshina or being so close, or I don't know. It feels like maybe he felt like he was floating. He was directionless until Armin gave him this sort of goal. Because we really don't get any characterization besides like the moment before Armin runs up with the book of Eren before he sees the book. He's just staring up at the clouds, sort of like asleep, and then Armin wakes him up. But yeah, these sort of like this we already talked about this a little bit, but sort of this also goes into the sort of what came first, like Eren or like the spirit of the Attack Titan, or are they one and the same? Of sort of Eren, because he's the last Attack Titan, does he define what it means to be the Attack Titan? And it is sort of this shitty rebellion, sort of anger with the world type thing, seeking freedom. I don't know. It is interesting. I don't know. I don't know how that connects back entirely, but I don't know. I don't know. Is my Eren is something we I feel like I still don't entirely get, and the reread putting it back in context in order all at once will be very helpful with that. But Ari, did you have anything else to say, or was that your main spiel?
So
On,
that's like the first aspect of Eren, I think, that stood out to me.
yeah.
Like about the freedom and Shiganshin. I got two more, but unless you guys have anything else to say about that specifically.
No, I
No.
think I got it all out.
Yeah. So then I guess the second aspect to Eren that we kind of run into here is his hatred of the Titans that kind of is, I don't know if it stems from them eating color or if it's just enhanced by that. Like if it really just comes out when he sees that. Like that, I guess that's the second important aspect to Eren's character of something that happens in this early stuff is that Carla dies and he sees her die. So yeah.
Because it is all about sort of the not being caged before Carla dies when he talks about his motivation. He really doesn't talk about hating the Titans until after that. And obviously that would lead it to being a more vengeance thing of they did something to me, so
I feel like he doesn't
I'll
even
lash
view
out.
the Titans as like the main reason for their cage. He sees the wall and the fact that they're kind of, for the large part,
like
forbidden from going outside the
contentment.
wall as the problem, not the Titans that are roaming around outside. That's the vibe I got. That's what I feel like I remember reading about it. His objection was more to the wall itself being the cage rather than the Titans outside the wall being that cage.
Yeah, he and Armin definitely have this sense of like they've seen the truth and everything, and everybody else around them can't see it, and Eren is definitely more pissy at everybody else than Armin about them not being able to see, and like the kids beating Armin up for being a heretic, for wanting to go outside the walls. But yeah, it's this sort of goes back into the I think the scout conversation. I talked about this in the video about Eren's two motivations here, and now the one I actually didn't consider, which is the next dot point that Ari's going to get into, is friends here, which is interesting. What run down what you were going to say about friends here, and then I'll
Well,
chime
to
in a little bit.
me, so I suppose the first, what do I say about friends? He loves his friends, is what I would probably say. And the two examples, I guess, that we get here is that first he saves Mikasa from the kidnappers, and he might have multiple reasons for doing that, because obviously they weren't friends yet. But I guess that's an example of he did something for someone else. And then he also sacrifices himself for Armin to save Armin. That's more directly, I guess, doing something to save his friends, and loving his friends. And obviously he hasn't become close with the other scouts yet, but we know eventually he does come to like love them like family, you know.
Yeah, we see a little bit of that in the training arc at the end. It is interesting because he does end up basically choosing the third option here. That is one that I've really never thought about that much, because he ends up prioritizing his friends, and he views the rumbling and then them stopping the rumbling as sort of the ideal ending for his friends, and they all like thank him in the end. In the last chapter, they all talk about how great he is for affording them sort of this happy ending.
But yes,
except for Sasha, she got shot, and he's sad about that. But because I feel like he also obviously especially with Mikasa and Armin, which is the most focus of like his friendship and relationships with the other characters, especially at the beginning part here. He does with the canon. He obviously tries to save them. Uh, Even with his squad, when they initially start getting eaten, like he does rage out when Thomas gets eaten. Um, these are the three aspects of Eren. I think you've hit the nail on the head. Nail on the head? Yes. The head on the nail? No, the nail on the head. Something.
Yep.
You've done the good stuff here, is what I'm trying
Yes,
to
thank
say.
you.
Identifying these three things.
Is
Should
there
we move
anything
on to
else
Mr.
that
Osmine?
stands
Or
out for you guys? Like for Eren as a person, I guess initially. I don't know. Yeah, maybe we can move on
I
and
mean,
we'll run
this
into
kind
it
of
more as we talk
ties
about
into the
it.
point that I had below. Like you already touched on the freedom stuff. I hadn't really touched as much on the friend stuff, but that is definitely there. But I think another key part is the fact that we get established very early on that Eren is a killer, has that heart of a killer, and will kill, and doesn't even question it. Like with
yeah,
the kidnappers, without question. He doesn't really know. I mean, he knows that they killed Mikasa's parents and kidnapped her, but that's all he knows at that point, and he still murders the three of them
yeah.
without even
It's interesting.
hesitating. And he's a 9-year-old. Like 9-year-olds don't usually have that kind of instinct, or and so like that should have been
Yeah,
it's just sort of cool. Oh yeah, it's cool. He's rescued Mikasa. Oh, what a badass! Because we've already spent some time with him. But it's like this 9-year-old just murdered 3 adult men. Like that's
the
fucked up, and it sets a lot of
Yeah.
it sort of sets him up as like when it turns around, it's like he's willing to just he's more than happy to just murder people, like as we see in the attack on Marley, so or the Liberio attack, the rumbling, and so on. He has no
the
qualms.
the The interesting thing about the flashback is like the reason why we sort of are almost entirely on Eren's side and killing the kidnappers is because of like the implied sex trade stuff. I don't think Eren as a 9-year-old can even comprehend that,
I
which is
assumed he didn't even
interesting.
hear
It
that. I
kind of
assumed he wasn't even aware of that.
yeah,
Like he just
yeah.
well, I
I
mean,
don't think he did.
his
Like,
whole
does he know what
his
sex is?
yeah. I mean,
It's like
did
fucking 9 years old.
I don't even think he heard it. That's the thing. But anyway,
Yeah,
I was more. I guess part of it comes into again that he said that the thing that disgusts him more than not being free is people who would deny other people's freedom,
yeah.
and that's what he saw them as, and that's clearly been ingrained. It's like an extension of it. It's a part of his freedom thing, but it's like he will go to the extreme lengths in order to ensure what he believes is someone's freedom. But it's also
It's
interesting because it's like
it,
you deny someone's freedom, so I'm going to deny you yours. I'm going to deny your ultimate freedom of life.
Well, I mean, it goes back to what the fuck does freedom mean? Like, encroaching on somebody's freedom by way of killing them or trying to kidnap them. Obviously, I'm completely down with the 3 kidnappers dying. It's
Hmm.
the disturbing part about it is that they're 9. And
Yeah.
it's clear that like we haven't got there, and I assume it's also in the manga. But at the trial, everybody will be sort of taken aback by the fact that these 2 like 9-year-olds killed like 3 kidnappers, even if they are kidnappers, and obviously it was in their right, and they were completely legally like allowed to kill them in self-defense. It's still like Jesus Christ, these are fucking 9-year-olds.
Yeah.
Um,
But what I mean is, like it's part of the reason, as we'll get into later on, why Eren despises Zeke's plan so much. Both the plan that was proposed, the one about having
yeah.
Historia turned into basically
Historia.
breeding cattle, a broodmare basically just pumping out babies to eat, which would then continue a generation of eating each other, and Zeke's plan of taking away the ability to have kids because that denies the ultimate freedom, which is the freedom to live.
I think it is. Go on. I don't want to interrupt.
And that's what he sees as the ultimate freedom. And he, I guess, sees that if other people would choose to deny that freedom to someone, then they forfeit their own rights to that same freedom. That's how I sort of see it anyway.
I think it could just be as simple as like aggressing on somebody, as like if you're going to do a bad thing, then I am ready to like defend with bad actions, even though that would make them good actions. Um, because again, like the both of Zeke's plans are basically the Eldians or the Paradisians taking the burden to sort of, when they are the victims still at that point of the entire world coming down on them, or external pressures, and they've been oppressed and marginalized this whole time, and sort of like that's them not being allowed to be free, and it's sort of this unfair aggression back towards them. Which leads him, obviously, to the rumbling, which is probably a little bit too far, because not everybody is down with Marley's military strategy, and we don't have to get into the fucking rumbling debate here. But we'll save that.
Yeah, we'll save that for the final video in this series.
Indeed. But yeah, he certainly is a killer. I think, again, nail head hitting something here with he's definitely different. And Mikasa is sort of coaxed into it by him and the Ackman things going on there. But somebody like Armin, you can't really see doing that at the age of 9. He obviously will evolve to kill people later on. But yeah. That's the Mr. Oz point there. I'm trying to figure out what the fuck I was saying here. I do kind of go into a whole Mikasa thing here. We are done with that point, right?
Yeah, I think I've covered it.
The Eren's jealousy of Mikasa I have written down here. It's not. Oh, actually, I do like this point. It's not as evident as I remember in the manga, and the first hint of it is in chapter 15 with his internal monologue. He can't even. I guess I can explain this without reading it. This Eren's obliviousness is also a bit of a. I don't want to say a crucial bit of characterization for him, but it's very evident. Like, even in the first chapter, when like he thinks he scared away the bullies, when like Armin even tells him, and he kind of ignores him right afterwards when Armin tells him like, no, they're scared of Mikasa, and they even say, oh shit, Mikasa's with him, and they dash away. It's kind of interesting to me. There's not really a blow off of him realizing that Mikasa is like better than him at everything. He just sort of in the training arc, and I think in a conversation they have in like chapter 3, after the initial top 10 ceremony, when she says like, I'm going to join the scouts, he even like gives the Jean argument to Mikasa of like, well, you should just be an MP. You play so high. Why would you throw your life away in the scouts or whatever? Kind of shows a little bit of another contradiction with Eren. He's sort of got a double standard where he hates a John for placing so high and just wanting a cushy life with the military police, whereas he's trying to coax Mikasa into doing it because, assumingly, he cares about her and doesn't want her to die or risk her life or have a high probability of dying in the scout regiment. This all ties back somehow, but I've gone off track. Chapter 15 with the internal monologue. This would be when they're training. There's also that odd moment at the end, and this I always thought this was also odd in the anime, and sort of Mikasa's, and I think in the manga here it's like the first delusional Mikasa moment, though I don't think it's intended to be. Where after Eren is struggling with the 3D maneuver gear thing, there's like a monologue of like Armin and Reiner are like excited, and they're like, oh, Eren's happy that he succeeded. And Mikasa has like this brief monologue where she's like, no, he's not happy because he succeeded. He's happy because he doesn't have to leave me. And it's always come off as odd to me every time I've seen the anime, and even now kind of in the manga, where it sort of seems, and I think in the anime, again, it's worse because it's at the beginning. It sort of sets Mikasa up as sort of delusional at the beginning, whereas it sort of does become, as we get to the back end of these chapters we covered, where it becomes increasingly, the Mikasa being obsessed with Eren thing really isn't too evident at the beginning. It is there, but it's not like to the like almost crazy degree that like the fandom accepts it as for in the entire anime. And like when you think of Mikasa and Eren's relationship, you think of that. But have either of you ever thought about that monologue or anything, or do you think I'm just being weird?
I'm looking at it now. I just want to double check whether Mikasa's one was internal or she said it out loud, and she said it out loud and got some. She
definitely says it out loud.
Yeah, she got some really weird looks from Reiner, Bertolt, and Armin.
Yeah, they do look at her weirdly. I'm with them, I guess. Is there something I'm missing here?
He's relieved because he won't have to be separated from me. I feel like the anime changed that line. I feel like the anime changed to something Maybe they didn't
I actually don't
actually.
remember that at all.
I'm hearing the dub in my head, and that's another degree of change there. So I don't know. I can't comment on that. But yeah. I know, Ari, have you peeped this monologue? Do you?
Yeah, I've got some notes on this in the Mikasa section.
Oh,
So,
okay. But
but I
just do it
don't.
now. Fuck it.
I guess okay. So for when I did read that, it did stand out to me as the first moment of like Mikasa being a bit delusional or very delusional. Um, and I was
Do you
trying
think
to
it's
think of like
intentional
why.
or
Well, it's certainly intentional. Like because of you,
okay?
you see like Reiner's reaction and stuff, and they're kind of like, "What's going on? Like, why is she saying that?" Like it's clearly meant to be intentional in my head at least.
Okay.
So trying to like rationalize why she would do that. I thought of maybe because she doesn't have like her whole life revolves around Eren, and she doesn't have any goals of her own, so she can't understand that Eren would have his own goals and things he wants to do. So she kind of is
Mm.
projecting her own desires onto Eren in a way. I mean, that's obviously what's happening, but I mean, it's just like it's a strange trait of hers, I guess. Like it's the beginning of her arc where she realizes that, or she hasn't realized yet that, um, I don't know
She
that
needs something
Eren.
outside
Yeah,
of
exactly. That.
Aaron.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I
that
feel
she
like
can be her own person.
the thing that hangs me up is that the conclusion is what is the conclusion to Eren and Mikasa's love story? I guess I always because initially when you see the final panel of 138 and it's her kissing the decapitated head, I remember thinking at the time, and I think I said this in the review in the time that people can go back and watch in last minute predictions for the next one, the final chapter. I remember thinking like, oh, Mikasa's lost it. She's gone insane. Whereas in the next like chapter, that's obviously not what happened. And then I've sort of gone back on that from thinking like, oh, that last panel moment was supposed to be like a commentary on their entire completely fucked up relationship. But then like the next chapter is all about kind of how that relationship is positive and Mikasa still cherishes it afterwards. Like it seems like this should be set up for her getting over Eren earlier in the story. Um
Yeah.
rather than at the very last page and then going into the bonus pages.
I mean,
I am
I
not
guess.
critiquing this and saying like it's bad. I'm just saying like it's hard to read, and I'm interested to see where through the reread where my read ends up. But Mr. R.
Well, I was going to say the fucked up stuff to do with the kiss and stuff. I think the kiss like kind of does tail end her sort of almost getting over it. She has like that final moment because like right before she cut his head off, like the fraction of a second before she killed him, he showed her their entire life together if she had made a different choice. So I
Yeah.
think at that point she was finally satisfied. She was able to get, I guess, even if it's a fucked up way, get the kiss and then like I guess get some closure on that. I
Validation,
mean,
yeah.
like, even though I saw recently on Reddit someone going, "Oh no, Mikasa definitely didn't get married. That wasn't Jean. That was Armin just there to be with her." And I was like,
Yeah.
but then I was like, "But there's a
What
fucking
about the
baby.
kids?
Yeah, there's a kid. Like she's literally holding a kid. Like that looks like her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of
Um,
stupid. But I think like it was just like that closure moment because I mean that's always a big thing in like Hollywood films. There's always some dramatic thing like when characters come to terms and get their closure and like
Yeah.
I guess giving a final kiss to like the one you love when after they've died or something is not entirely uncommon
Yeah.
in a lot of media. Like Hollywood
I
loves
feel
to
like
do
it
that
wouldn't be
shit.
weird at all if it was on the forehead or something, but it is a mouth
Yeah,
kiss.
it's a proper. It's the most, and it's like sort of the most forefront. Like it's a double page spread of, and it's the
Yeah.
second kiss in the entire series. 139 chapters.
Yeah.
And it's the second kiss, double page spread, and she's kissing a decapitated head while Ymir's grinning in the background.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's perfect in being, like, slightly creepy. And I feel like it definitely had to have been intended that
Oh
way a
yeah.
little bit. Just like, this is,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
guess, creepy because she's obsessive, but again, I didn't really. I guess this goes into Mikasa characterization. Like, Mikasa is very, like, she feels very in control in the beginning chapters. It feels very much like she's kind of over Eren's bullshit and she's like protecting him because she cares about him, obviously. But it feels like she sort of understands his silly outbursts and his like drive and things like that. And she sort of seems like the mother. And that was kind of another critique later on of like she becomes super overprotective of him like a mother. And this sort of gets into the moment Carla has with her right, the last moment before she dies, before she gets the roof kicked in. It's not. It's when Eren runs off. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I don't know. I think we're trying to stick on Eren here for a little bit.
Yeah. But just to finish that off, I think it's also like the point of that 138 final page is to draw the parallel to Ymir, and I think that's a very important like aspect to
Yeah.
understanding that. Which at this point I got no idea how to like rationalize that. That's a thing for
like
later.
I think when we get to that
thing.
arc, I think we'll probably maybe have a stronger idea. Hopefully,
Yeah.
we'll have a lot of notes on it. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just reading through what I said here. After successfully passing the balancing test, he thinks you'll never have to take. Okay, this is actually an important piece of context, I think, here. Because my notes, if I'm not a liar here, are saying that Eren also in that scene has a moment where he looks at Mikasa and says, "You'll never have to take care of me again."
This is internal. This is entirely internal.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting from Eren's perspective, I think my original point here was trying to be like Eren's obliviousness and what does he think Mikasa thinks about him? Like, it seems pretty obvious that he's doing the main character shonen thing where he doesn't realize the girl's in love with him. Naruto doesn't realize Hinata is totally into him. Ash never realizes when girls are flirting with him. He's like, what's flirting? I don't know. I love Pokemon. Luffy is like this too, where in Goku also does this where marriage is a food and he agrees to marry Chi-Chi. It's a whole fucking thing. And I think this is an extension of that sort of trope. I feel like in Japanese media it seems to be like that sort of celibate, asexual, not giving in to sort of a carnal desire for women is sort of a portrayed largely, especially in like a more kid-friendly shonen manga, which Attack on Titan I guess is. As sort of like a negative thing, or it could just be like replicating the childlike perception of adults like freaking out over women when you're like 10 years old and you still think girls are icky or whatever. I don't know. It could be a bunch of things. But Eren's obliviousness, to get back to the point, I was thinking like it is. I don't know what Eren thinks of Mikasa, especially early on here. And I was thinking, like, is he jealous a little bit of Mikasa's ability? I feel like there is another point later where he might talk about being jealous of Mikasa or something. But I don't know. Eren's jealousy of Mikasa. Do we have anything to say about this? Or anything about...
I would say that I didn't notice anything about it when I was reading. Like, it never stood out to me, like, oh, he's jealous of her or anything.
It's definitely...
But it's also...
I have from, like, previous... Like, I feel like, because again, I was always in the camp of like Eren. I was literally saying when Eren said that he hated Mikasa that was legitimate because, well, I kind of hated Mikasa at the time, but I also thought like, why would Eren like you at all? Like, you're insane. Like, I don't know. I don't think Mikasa is insane. I think that was just me being uncharitable and reading into their dynamic. But it still is, I guess, hard for me to kind of process it as a two-way affection here, especially even when in the flashback Eren is like he doesn't seem, it seems incidental that he says all the right things to Mikasa there. I don't know, I guess he's kind of stoic too in the fact that like he can't say like come live with us, we'll be glad to have you or something. He just sort of says like come with us and like tugs the scarf and says hurry up. And it's sort of like this, he's almost even distant in like the height emotional moments here. I don't know. This is obviously a developing story here.
I'm gonna be honest.
I don't reread, we'll get more.
I don't think Eren really started to feel. I actually realized he felt anything towards Mikasa until Zeke told him. I think until that point he probably did.
Because even later in 123 he has the like he still hasn't figured it out. He still like asks her like what am I to you? And then I guess he accepts the family thing.
And then Zeke tells him, and he's kind of just like,
yeah.
Like I think he was almost hoping that Zeke would have like the answer, and Zeke's like, no, dude, she just likes you. And I think at that point it's kind of like he kind of has. Bear in mind, he also spent an eternity inside the founding Titan, probably living out thousands of scenarios with him and Mikasa together.
But it also
as well.
will happen at once.
Yeah, and it all happened
Um,
simultaneously. So when he was like when he was like fucking jealous incel mode, when he was chatting to Armin, I think a big
yeah.
part of that would have. I don't think that would have been established, until after. I don't think that even feelings towards her would have even been established until Zeke just fucking told him that Mikasa has a crush on him.
It's interesting if you read the incel moment in the last chapter as like sort of the boiling over point for all of this. That for 138 chapters he really doesn't show any outward affection to her. I guess he does in the fantasy in 138.
I mean, even
Until
then,
that moment and that moment with
he's still a bit
Armin.
distant from her. In the
Yeah, but it's kind of I feel like again that's sort of like how he is, I guess. But I just this sort of clicked. I think the moment he realizes outwardly that he likes her back is when she in the theoretical timeline when she says that when she doesn't say family, when she says the other thing and it sort of clicks in him in that moment and that's why they run away because there is the panel of them like holding hands and running away in 138 I think. So because I think Mr. I you said this about something similar to this but from the Mikasa's perspective.
I was saying I don't think Mikasa realized that she loved Eren until she thought she'd lost him. I think she did view him as family for up until this point.
Which is the incel moment, right? That's Eren like, oh, it's too late. The Eren incel moment is him realizing it's too late and that she's gone and that I guess he's gone because he's going to die. Yeah. But it is sort of that same moment. Might be onto something there.
Possibly.
But
I mean, I always when I was saying the incel moment, I'm always like, no, I don't want her to move on. I want her to only think about me. That fucking pathetic groveling that he does. That is also a Pog moment, and the Reddit is wrong when they say they dislike it. It's a great moment.
Well, I agree, but Mikasa and Eren's relationship, a developing story we'll follow in the weeks and months to come. Ari, you have a bunch of points here. Also about
We've
Eren.
covered
You
a few of them.
These?
The first thing is like circling back to a little bit what we were talking about, which is like in that speech or the internal monologue Eren has when he succeeds in like balancing on the broken or the non-broken equipment now. Like he says that he's happy he was able to balance because now he can take care of himself. And then just the thing I noted was that that's a very similar goal to what Armin was striving for, which is that he wants to be able to show to Mikasa and Eren that he is valuable on his own, I guess, and he can do things. Yeah, exactly. So it's just I found it interesting that Eren and Armin have similar goals in that way.
I guess surrounded by Mikasa and Armin might have always been a bit difficult for him because Armin's the brain, Mikasa's the brawn.
And he's sort of the incidental average bloke in the middle.
Yeah, and as Keith Shadis remarks,
there's another protagonist trope.
Completely, he is almost painfully unremarkable, except with the exception of one thing, and that's his willpower, and actually his hand-to-hand skills. He came second in hand-to-hand. I think he technically would have come third if Annie had actually given a shit.
Yeah, because Annie wasn't trying, right?
Yeah.
Let me Annie simp for a second.
Yeah. Annie wasn't trying, so Eren came second behind Mikasa, obviously, in like hand-to-hand combat. But hand-to-hand combat wasn't graded for the military police selection, or it wasn't a grade that was considered for top in the class. So, yeah, he the only thing he has going for him is his sheer willpower.
Yeah, which is interesting that he's self-aware of it. Like, I thought that was really strange. Like, I didn't know that he'd be that self-aware enough to know that he's insanely,
that is true.
Yeah.
It is interesting. There's a little more nuance I'm finding to even younger Eren here. Sorry, you got some more points here?
All right, my next tiny little point here is that Eren gives Mikasa her scar, like when he punches her, or tries to punch her, I guess, which is... It's something I did remember, but what I don't remember is if it's ever brought up again in the story.
Oh,
I didn't ever remember if it's...
It's mentioned in the trial. It's used as evidence against him. Because they ask where she got that scar from, and she's like, Eren... I don't know if... I can't remember if Mikasa... Well, I guess we'll get to that in the next video. I can't remember if Mikasa had to admit that Eren tried to attack her or not. Because there's a big thing where Eren didn't even realize he did that. Eren still at that point didn't realize that he tried to kill Mikasa.
Rico says it in the report.
Yeah, well, that's why they ask about it, because Rico reported it, and then Mikasa, I can't remember if she's forced to admit it or not. or if she just stays
Yep.
quiet
She
and then
just
it's kind of
scowls and says, "Fuck
Yeah.
you, Rico." Mr. R in shambles. He loves that girl. But
loved
I've never even noticed that Mikasa
past
loved.
tense.
I've never even noticed that she had a scar. I now remember her getting cut, but yeah, okay. Cool.
Mm. All right, now my final Eren thing is one that I just don't think I understood, which is in chapter 17. It's the whole chapter is about everyone trying to figure out why or what it means to be a soldier in a way.
Oh, I remember this. I think I had similar
And
thoughts.
like essentially, Eren and it comes down to Eren and Reiner are having a conversation on what it means to be a soldier, and Eren is talking about how you shouldn't want to. I essentially I didn't understand. Like I felt like Eren was trying to say that it's you shouldn't try to kill people because it's bad. But then he reflects on the kidnappers in a way and how that's bad, and he frames that in a
Trying to
bad
find
light. And then Reiner talks back to him and says you can use your power to kill people to protect others. Um, and personally, I just didn't understand what was going on in this scene. Do you guys remember this scene? I guess is the first thing.
I'm
Yes,
looking at
I
it right
definitely
now.
noted it as I was reading it, and I was like, "This is a little weird." The truth is, it usually doesn't end well. When you are, I guess Aaron's talking about here how, like, if you are left to resort to violence, it usually doesn't end well. It's not child's play. I know what you're trying to say, but still, I think it's irresponsible. We're soldiers, aren't we? There are times we can't run away no matter how bad the odds are. When the people we're supposed to protect are threatened, we have to enter the fray and shield them. It's interesting. Is Eren like reflecting on sort of a soldierly duty that he had in the Mikasa scenario?
Mm.
But
Well-
Reiner keeps going here, and it doesn't matter who or what the enemy is. We need to master skills to get stronger with artillery as well as hand-to-head combat. I think that's our responsibility as strong soldiers. I guess if you remove soldiers and just as strong people to protect the weak, that might be what he's saying here. But Mr. R, you going to say something?
I was going to say, it's just reading that line again. It's so fucking wild seeing like how Reiner sort of points, because that is like such a consistent thing for Reiner. The amount of times throughout the series where we'll see Reiner, well, especially in like the final arc where like Reiner is always taking bullets for people. Like he takes all he absorbs all the shells.
He's
for
the
Zeke.
armored titan.
Yeah, he's the I mean, they call him the Shield of Marley. He takes the shells for Zeke. He takes thunder spears for Annie. And then, no matter how the odds are, he still signs up to be part of the final battle as well. Like, despite everything, like those words that he says there, he lives by those. By the in the end of the series when he decides to join the alliance.
Yeah,
It's just a little thing that I sort of
That
didn't
is
really. I don't think I even clocked when I was reading it. It's
because this
very
tracks
cool.
back to sort of Eren's talk here and his confrontations with Jean, right? Where he's sort of saying it's sort of him learning to keep his emotions in check and read the room a little bit, and sort of developing on that end. What did you originally say, Ari? What was the point of contention here?
So the contradiction in Eren in that he kills the kidnappers and he seems proud of it initially, but now he's reflecting on it and he says that it's like a bad thing. Like I think he frames it as a bad thing.
I think he's kind of framing it as like maybe trauma that comes from that. Even like maybe he feels like he has mixed feelings about it now, and it's sort of like something he doesn't like to think about, or maybe something he's not proud of, I guess. But then thinking on it, this is sort of like the justification for it from Reiner's perspective.
That is true.
Because I think the contradiction here, again, this goes into a larger thing. I think me and Minty used to talk about this all the time about how much Isayama understood about like morality, and if all of his like morality talk throughout all of Attack on Titan was like as basic as sometimes you do things that seem bad, but they're also kind of good, to the point where like, oh, you saved Mikasa, but you did this horrible violent thing. Isn't that wacky how things make you feel, rather than sort of being like a descriptive claim about like what you should do in a situation of like saving somebody or self-defense or something. Or I think this is a general talking point about art and people sort of reading philosophy into art, of sort of like whether or not art is actually trying to tell you like what to do or how to act or how to be a good person rather than just sort of like showing a hard conflict like the rumbling or whatever rather than like passing a moral judgment on it and not sort of like running away from that fact but about like that's not what the story is about. It's not like that's not the point of the story, I guess, of like this interesting moral dilemma, but rather just showing that and sort of reflecting the emotions in a reason why a person might do this and sort of presenting that in sort of an understandable way. Sort of a massive dumb tangent. But I guess my point here is how like you can sort of reduce all this down to maybe that, but that's a very uncharitable reading of Isayama, and I don't know if it is uncharitable. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Did any of that make sense?
Yeah, I think I followed you. I've always thought about Attack on Titan as like not necessarily making the moral statement, I guess, because like there are probably points where the moral state, where from us, like, you know, the morality, I guess, is almost obvious what the choice is, and it's more about showing what happens when you put people in effectively impossible circumstances, impossible to make it circumstances where, you know, with hindsight, obviously, and us as readers, we can, you know, easily go, okay, yeah, you just do this, you do this, but putting those people in situations where they don't have a lot of those luxuries is
I think I just figured out my conclusion because I stopped talking for a second. But I feel like the contradiction is that like if Isayama's philosophy is that like, oh, he's not making moral statements, it's sort of like when people say like, oh, I'm not being political, but it's sort of like every action is making a moral statement by your behavior. You are co-signing your behavior sort of inherently. By doing something, you are basically saying you should do as I do because otherwise why would I be doing it unless I'm just like a terrible person doing bad things and then being hypocritical against them. It goes back into like, well, everything's kind of political. Everything's kind of a moral statement. I guess the point was whether or not Isayama understands that. And I don't think it's like a bad thing if he doesn't or thing. Like I hate the author. Like again, I hate talking about the author at all. Generally, in all types of analysis, I would never make a video about any of this. I think it was pertinent to this conversation, but I think generally when you're judging a work, it is a personal experience, and you should disregard any sort of intent thing.
I mean, I will say, I feel like he must have some kind of awareness because generally when people come out and say the statements like, "Oh, I don't want to make it political," usually that does bleed through, and it just makes for a really shoddy piece of work, which fails to really.
And when people say that, they're lying. Like they want it to be political, they just want it to be like their politics.
There is that
like,
as well.
When people are saying like,
there are examples of stuff out there that actually you can tell they're actively trying to not make a political statement. They're trying.
Yeah, you always have an example for this, but I forget what it is.
It's Far Cry 5.
Is it a Far Cry? It always is Far Cry.
Far Cry 5 is a perfect example of trying really hard not to make something political and just making something terrible as a result. Because the entire concept was built around this incredibly strong set of political ideals: gun control, religious extremism, the rural communities in America and what can happen within those isolated sort of environments. And it just like has this flat surface. It's got the aesthetics of politics without actually doing anything with it, and it just makes for an entirely flat and uninteresting and uninspired experience because of the determination to not be political.
Yeah, I think even though I just did like the same thing you just did with Isayama here, I still feel like that is like an entirely personal read on the game. Again, I don't think you could inherently say that they aren't trying to be political or whatever, because if you read into that game without knowing anything about that, I guess it is sort of like the Isayama is a coward thing, which we kind of say as a joke with like the kiss stuff or whatever. But it is sort of like the accusation sounds like such a loaded word, but the accusation that Ubisoft or whoever, Ubisoft makes fucking Far Cry, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're like trying not to be political, obviously, because they don't want to rustle feathers or whatever. But yeah. So moving more directly into Mikasa now, Ari, again, you've started us off here on our table, so take it away.
Okay, well, Okay, I guess firstly, when it came to the reread, before I started rereading, I didn't really have a good understanding of Mikasa, I think. Just because it's like I've only seen like season 1 anime, and you don't really get, at least I don't remember much from what happens there.
Yeah.
One thing that really stood out to me when I was rereading, at least, was that Mikasa was very heavily impacted by Carla's death, or at least even the possibility of her death. Like when the colossal titan kicks the wall and there's debris, you clearly see that she's really panicked, and almost as panicked as, or even I would say equally as panicked as Eren.
Yeah.
And that's something I didn't remember, or never really thought about. That moment would have had quite a big impact on her, almost as much as it probably would have had on Eren. Yeah, that's my first point there. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, because she does have that moment, as like after everything's happened, where Hannes walks them, and you get sort of the long shot of them from behind, and Mikasa sort of grabs her head and says, "Not again," which is obviously a tease early on that something else tragic has happened to Mikasa's real family, that gets expanded on in chapter 6. But it is sort of like, Eren has the big raw emotional like outburst of him screaming and then hitting Hannes and crying. Whereas Mikasa's is a little bit more reserved, but it is sort of like that just is her character, right? Eren screams and gets angry, and Mikasa sort of internalizes it. I think we must have said this, or at least I must have said this at some point in this very long fucking video we're making here. But I think I just want to stress again how different Mikasa was at the beginning here than I remembered, or than I ever sort of conceived of Mikasa to be. I think it's a good thing. I mean, she again. I kind of just said this, where she seems kind of over Eren's shit, and she seems like mature, or almost more mature than she is later on here at the beginning. And there's something about it that I'm not describing very well. Did you guys also find this, or do you get what I'm picking up, what I'm putting down here, or did Mikasa just seem like Mikasa to you the whole time?
I mean, to me, I think she felt like Mikasa the whole time. I think, I think she kind of came to the realization, obviously much faster than Eren, but I also think it's interesting that she chose to turn away and not watch. She had been watching, and then she realized she turned away. I think the anime actually made that look a bit better, funnily enough. I was looking at the manga pages, and it's not quite as clear, so good job on them interpreting what was actually happening in those two small panels where she turns away.
Yeah.
But, because there's a bit where Carla goes, Mikasa, and then Mikasa's like, no, and then like the next shot we see of her, like I think the tears have largely gone, and she's just kind of got this almost like dead expression as she realizes.
Yeah, she's sort of resigned to it, I think.
Yeah.
How about you, Ari? Is this Mikasa characterization thing different, or?
I think it's just, I'd never really thought of her as a character. Like, I mean, obviously she's a character. I just never really thought about her character. I'm going through the story. So this is really showing us that, at least to me, when I was rereading this, it made her more of a distinct character in my mind, which I like.
There was an awakening moment, tying it all in. For me, when I realized that Mikasa was my favorite out of the original 3, and it was when I was doing all those tentative hypotheses. Don't remember if the YouTube audience would know about this, but like 4 months before the series ended, I went through and I typed up tentative hypothesis on sort of like videos I would want to make on every character and what sort of the point of each individual character was. And I was writing them sort of in order of who was the most important. So I did Eren first, then Armin's, and then I did Mikasa's, and I realized it was like way longer than the write-up I did on Eren and Armin. And I honestly can't remember everything I wrote down for Mikasa. But that was sort of the moment where I started, I guess, thinking of Mikasa more as a character. Because I do have an old video on the channel. I do feel like I've said this 3 times in this video too, where I shit on Mikasa and say she's terrible and boring, and basically all the generic things people that don't like Mikasa say all the time. I sort of put them all into that video. But yeah, it is interesting. There is like a moment where I do have a moment where I started thinking of Mikasa more as a character too. So it's interesting that you're sort of having a similar thing here.
Yep.
But your next point is more about Mikasa's awakening, if we can.
Yeah. So
segue into that.
what can we say about this awakening? I'm sure we'll have thoughts about this.
It's super cool visually, and I love how it's
It
paneled.
is.
But that's not what we want to talk about
And
here.
it's like a
Um,
whole chapter about Mikasa, which was
It
cool.
is. What exactly does she realize when she awakens?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's more of, I feel like it's more of the shonen battle thing of like her power more awakens, but it does come with this sort of thematic internal character awakening. It is because she does have the monologue where it's sort of when she pieces together like the world is cruel or whatever.
Yep.
The duck thing we've all talked about liking a lot. The praying mantis with the butterfly. It's been all around her from the start. There is that is sort of the thematic click, I think.
Yep, I agree.
You have the quote here. It hit me that living was a miracle, and in that instant, my body stopped trembling. From that moment, I was perfectly in control of myself. I would do anything. I feel like I've had moments in my life, not where I stabbed the dude in the back of the heart, but you sort of do have these moments where, like, I don't know, you feel pressure and then sort of the pressure completely subsides. Like, I feel like I can
Yeah.
direct this to sort of like social awkwardness, I guess. I feel like in my like teenage years, I guess, you like when your mother says like go and order the food from the thing, you sort of
Oh, no.
get, I don't know, maybe this was just me, but you get
No, no, no.
trepidatious or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like most people go through this. And then there was sort of a moment where like that just stopped being a thing, and where it's like talking to like people at like the checkout is like completely fine in the moment. I feel like it unironically came when I started working on YouTube videos and I didn't go outside for like a year, and then when I finally went back outside, it was like, oh, this is fucking simple.
Like a
I
butterfly
feel like there's
being.
just a moment where sometimes things click, and this is kind of the moment where, like, for whatever reason, you just stop being afraid, and it's like, well, it's time to do this or whatever.
Yeah.
It is, I guess, an adrenaline thing too, but yeah, the
I guess from a
Ackerman
thematic
awakening.
element, that'll make sense. I mean, we do learn later that it is basically just a completely biological sci-fi moment
Yeah,
that just happened there. Like it's a special genetic aberration, I guess, that as a result from all
Yeah.
the experimentation on the Ackerman family to turn them into human titans, and it's basically just like a thing that clicks.
They do say it's an experiment, huh?
The Ackermans were.
Yeah,
I
from
kind of
science
just
experiments.
forgot that and assumed it was like a thing that like it was just like a sci-fi thing in their bloodline about the power stacking.
No, they were I think they weren't they an experiment to produce like a super soldier to protect the royal family. Wasn't that
Yeah.
the original?
Isn't it just like a
goal of the Ackermans?
throwaway line where they're like they're byproducts of
Yeah, I
Titan
think it
science
is.
or something?
It's like the beginning of season 4, like in the war meeting, I think,
Yeah.
from memory. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
it's
keep
not
an
the
eye
anime.
out for that. You've also got on returning to the present. This is a cruel world. Only the winners survive in this world. I've got a place to go home to Eren. As long as you're around, I can do anything. What a fantastic moment! God, all the big moments in this. The fucking when the sort of heartbreaking. As long as I've got Eren, when you assume that he's dead and her having to face that. But thematically, what were you trying to bring up here, Rory?
I was just trying to see what you guys thought
piece
about it
it
because I don't
together.
really know. Yeah.
The cruel world.
I like
sort
your
of seems
point
like
about that first bit. Like it makes sense.
yeah.
I'm just trying to think
The
how to tie
cruel
it into
world
this
thing.
second bit.
Yeah, the I feel like the beginning bit and sort of the conclusion at the end of the flashback is sort of supposed to be her coming to the wrong conclusion, and then when she stands up and she fights like the Titan when she's just got the little blade, when it sort of seems helpless, is sort of like the world is cruel, but you've sort of got to stand against it or whatever, or it can still be beautiful, like fighting to preserve the
Yeah.
memory of Eren or whatever. I think that's where that thematically is going.
No, I agree. I didn't think of that. That's a great point.
I feel like in a lot of more bleak stories, and I really am just thinking about Berserk, or I guess Ava is sort of like this. The conclusion always is like the world sucks, and like they'll show you terrible examples of the world sucking. Like even in Ava, like Shinji, a whole like the arc of Shinji is him not having anything, getting friends, then losing all of his friends in various violent and like psychological manners and interpersonal manners, and then him still choosing at the end of the day to continue on and not succumb to instrumentality. Guts is like that too. He has a family. Gambino betrays him, tries to kill him. Then he gets a family back again with the Band of the Hawk. Then they
Oh, yeah. But yes,
fuck.
there's
Never mind.
I heard about half of that.
Gambino.
I ripped my headphones off as
Guts gets him back, he loses him, has to continue on, all right? That's the struggle and all that shit. That's always the point, thematically. I guess I spoiled Ava too, but...
you did,
I was
but
way
I
more
don't know.
vague
I
about
don't know
Ava.
anything
Ava's
about
more
Ava.
abstract.
I've read enough of Berserk to know some of those character names.
What
I
a
know nothing about
Gambino
it.
is?
I don't know if I know what a Gambino is. I probably do and forgot. I need to buy a book too.
Okay, I guess I won't expand on any of that. You have met Gambino, but I guess I shouldn't have even said that. Anyway, Mr. Oz reading Berserk, you get the point. The point of stories is always the world sucks, but you got to keep going, because otherwise the thematic message would just be to kill yourself. And I don't think anybody has the balls to write a story about killing yourself, because why are you around to write the story? Cruel World is beautiful. Fight the Titan. That also, and this is another thematic thing I think we've already talked about, where it's sort of like Mikasa's hopeless struggle, and whether or not the hopeless struggle is still worth it to like dedicate your life to. Like her fighting the Titan with like no gas and just the one knife, but she stands up and sort of instinctively her body takes over and defends itself. I think that's sort of another natural sort of like thematic thing about how humanity like again, the struggling thing in Berserk, sort of this refusal to give up and an instinct to try and survive or whatever, and you can see that in like other animals and shit like that or whatever. But that's, I guess that's all I can think of for the Mikasa stuff. I think that's the thematic thing there. Ari, you got another point under this though.
Oh, I've got so many points. Yeah, this is a point I hadn't realized because I don't remember Mikasa having headaches at all in the just even in the anime or whatever, but it's just in the story generally until the end. But essentially, we see in the story that Mikasa gets her headaches, and I never picked up that the headache is just her. I mean, in my interpretation, is her remembering the headache that she had when the kidnappers hit her and she was lying on the floor with a headache.
Oh, I never thought about that either.
Yeah, so it potentially it's like just a psychosomatic headache where she's like thinking back to the actual pain that she had back in the day. Which is
that's really
it's something I'd never realized until
Doesn't it
that
get
point.
post-hoc justified as it was Ymir peering into her head at that moment though?
It's possible. I don't think they
Maybe
directly
again.
say, "Oh, well, these headaches."
Don't they
from
say?
You.
Because Eren wants to know about the headaches, right? He incorporates that in, but then that ends up being bullshit. But I think the Ymir thing is at the end a little bit.
But do they directly say her headaches though?
Well, they don't say headaches, but Mikasa says, I'll find it. The exact words she says is like, where is it when she meets Ymir?
Like looking into my head.
Yeah, that was you looking into my head. So it was you were always the one looking inside my head. And it's like Mikasa's never had any other indication that she feels like someone's looking into her head, so I assumed that the headaches were that.
Yeah. I wonder if it's both. I mean, I'm sure it is both, but like how Ymir is choosing to look back at those moments specifically, and the headaches are just happening because of her remembering that moment specifically. I don't know.
Yeah, you could also reduce it thematically to like Ymir kind of being a representation of like the cruel world, like her life is the cruel world, and sort of like obviously her family getting taken away from her initially is sort of the first moment of her coming in contact with like Ymir or the cruel world or Ymir's reality that led everybody down this path 2,000 years ago. Just a quick thing, and I'm just looking at this now because you have Louise and her mother. It is, this is probably obvious, but it is neat that in that moment where she kills that Titan, she is kind of saving the family, or like a parallel to her family by saving the daughter and the mother. And I'm pretty sure the father ends up surviving too. Yeah. The first tease of the headaches is in, I think it might be chapter 2. I was going to say chapter 1, but it is when that moment where she's like says not again, and she grabs her head as Hannes is walking her and Eren away. So yeah, I remember thinking the headache thing came out of nowhere, but just like the memory thing and basically everything as we're coming to see, it was teased from the beginning, and it was apparent in the beginning. Is that all?
That's all my points about, and especially that's it about the headache. I thought it was
Well,
cool.
Mr. R, your next one is about the I'm strong moment. Do you want to
Yes.
introduce this one?
Yes, I had not even thought about the fact that we get that so early on. It maybe fits in like a bit of like
I feel like when 135 came out, I was like shouting that it was a callback to this. What were you doing, Mr. R?
maybe I just yeah. I guess it's just like I just thought it was kind of interesting. Like just kind of cool thing. Like, you know, she thought she'd lost Eren, she thought she'd lost everything. She was about to basically just go out and die with complete reckless abandon, basically preparing
All
to
she
die at
has
that
without
point.
Eren is her strength. Maybe. And her other friends.
Maybe.
But that's a thing later.
But
I wonder if... Go on.
To me, it just seems almost like her sort of suicidal battle cry. Like,
Yeah.
I'm strong is what she uses when she thinks she's going to go out, you know, finally going to go out and die. Because, like, when she's shouting it in 135, at that point, they think they're fucked. They're completely surrounded. Yeah. They're on the verge of death. And she has nothing else to do but just let out this complete raw primal, emotion.
Yeah. I think
I just thought it was neat.
Yeah, I think
it is super neat. I'm confusing my words here. It's sort of an interesting peer into like, because I kind of assumed in this moment she was doing it because I didn't assume, but I was kind of curious on whether or not she was doing it because she knew she would fire everybody up, or if she actually has this sort of arrogance inside her, which is kind of interesting because I don't necessarily think of Mikasa as an arrogant character. I guess it's just another layer of nuance here. But it is sort of like her coping.
I think it is more just like it's all she has left at that point, and it's just the only thing she can shout, and it's like she's almost trying to fire herself up more than anyone else.
Yeah, I feel like the arrogance is more evident in like 135 than the example here of sort of like I don't know, it's sort of like when reduced to nothing, she still has sort of pride in her strength, I guess, because she is the strongest, because how the Ackerman thing works, if it stacks, she's born after Levi, she eventually would surpass him, and that happens in that final battle where he's obviously injured and stuff as well. But
I don't know how it's like, because they come from two different lines, remember, as well. Two different branches.
But I think
it's purely genetic. I didn't get the impression it was in any kind of way like spiritual. I thought it was purely genetic.
I guess I assumed it was spiritual.
I know Levi was malnourished in his childhood. That probably would contribute.
Yeah, but it is because to contradict myself, I was almost going to bring this up earlier. It sort of doesn't make sense that she could train to get stronger if it like stacks and is automatically awakened. I guess you have to bring it out of yourself, but I mean, it's just this hasn't been thought through to the specifics because it's a
I don't even remember it stacking in the manga. I'm going to be honest. I didn't realize it stacked.
Where I could be making things up. I do sometimes just do that.
All I remember is them saying like one line about them saying, "Oh, isn't this from Titan Experiments?" That's like literally all I remember.
Because I think at some point, maybe Kenny says that, like, no, it can't be Kenny because he didn't understand it. I think at some point somebody says that, like, oh, it's the power of all.
Right, no, you're right. Ackermans. When awakened, the Ackerman in question gains the combined battle experience from every single Ackerman before them via paths. Apparently, chapter 112.
Sometimes I don't make things up.
Chapter 112, apparently.
But is that Eren saying that?
It might be.
Because Eren could be lying.
That is I'm pretty sure that is the chapter number of the I've always hated you thing.
Yeah, that is the chapter where Eren does his little thing. But at the same time, there was probably some truth in there. Like, you know, the concept of awakening.
True. We'll have to check when we get there again. But did you say what you wanted to say about the I'm strong moment? I feel like I cut you off.
I mean, I don't really have a huge amount to say.
Nothing left to use. No, you did go over that, huh?
Yeah, I mean, nothing left. Yeah, nothing left to lose at that point. She thinks she's lost Eren. I think at the point that it happened in 135, she thought she'd lost Armin as well, because Armin had been
because Armin's swallowed by the thingy and
by the big tongue titan. So at that point, it is just like, you know, and she thinks she's about to lose her other friend. She thinks she's about to lose Jean. I don't know how much she cares about Annie and Reiner. Probably a little bit, but she thinks she's about to lose Jean. She thinks she's about to lose she thinks she's about to lose Connie.
She probably doesn't care about Piek at all. But yeah.
Well, Piek tried to kill Eren, so yeah, she has.
Yeah, Eren didn't give her a vision or anything.
I think she's forgiven. Yeah, Piek never got the vision, but I guess we're down to the last point here, which is my point, and I haven't read through it because I can't read and talk at the same time. Oh, I remember this point now. Was Mikasa willing to kill Rico and Mitabi before Ian interfered and convinced them to not abandon Eren? Ian says he was scared stiff of what she was going to do, and that's why he said what he said. I think this is Ian like being humble and being like, oh, I was only able to make the right decision here to not abandon Eren immediately after he raged out, and he's trying to be like, oh, Mikasa, give me strength or whatever. But Mikasa does have a thing where I'm pretty sure she gestures to like turn around and he like grabs her arm or something. So I don't know, would Mikasa have killed Rico and the other bloke?
She probably would have either. I don't think she would have killed them. Like she could have knocked them out or something. But I think she would have just run away and like they would have had to chase her, and that would have led to a confrontation or something, and that would have been bad. I don't think she'd kill them like straight off. But maybe. I doubt it though.
Depends. How crazy is Mikasa? This is kind of the conversation we already had, but I feel like we've covered this. Does Mikasa have it in her? I don't know. I honestly don't know what I would say. Probably not. But there is like a gesture, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Do we want to move on to Armin, or do we have other things to say about Mikasa, perhaps?
I just want to say I like Mikasa. Good.
She's very good.
She's a good character. Like I think
I think
I can't remember. Did I rate her highest out of the main three on my tier list? Now I can't remember.
I definitely did. So, and I would still say she was my favorite one in these first 18 chapters. I think maybe I've just come to this conclusion now, and it might go back to the very first note. I think maybe what I'm trying to say about Mikasa's characterization being different at the beginning is that I do think she was cute at the beginning, whereas I don't think I've ever thought of Mikasa as like cute. And obviously, I guess this. Yeah, she always has cute moments, but the cute moments are sort of in spite of her like stoicness or her like rough exterior. Like Annie has cute moments, but she's like when she's younger, she's not really cute. But Mikasa definitely at the beginning here, sort of the faces she makes is cute, I guess.
You know what she reminds me of actually? She taps into that same sort of a similar sort of vibe in some panels, especially in like the early chapters and like after Eren wraps a scarf around her. I can't remember if Ari's read it. I know you haven't read it, Carl. She gives off some little Nezuko vibes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking you were gonna say. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there's like real cute sort of Nezuko vibes. I'll post a picture in Discord so Carl knows what I'm talking about.
It's the Demon Slayer girl, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about. The one with the thing in her mouth who's kind of a demon.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, maybe. Spoilers.
Spoilers
Isn't that the first episode?
Spoilers to episode 1.
But are we moving on to Armin's characterization?
Yep, let's do it.
I don't have anything here, so I'll chime in. Mr. I, yours is first. I don't know if it's a good place to start, but I'm throwing it to you anyway.
Mine is. I can look at this picture. Yeah, Armin, just like Armin sort of and you know what, I can vibe with this, and I don't think like it's often difficult for people to like appreciate things that they've done, and Armin is like a living example of that, like his sort of anxiety about his own self-worth and how he just never seems to think that as I put here, Armin's never able to parse his own actions. And as a result, sorry, Cal?
Oh, I just figured it out. It's his only illogical action is his self-doubt. And I only just put that, put that together thematically. Because, right, he's always, like, the logical thinker. And the only time he's, like, being stupid is when he's talking about himself. Because he does have that deeper insecurity about being useless. But that's a big thing.
A lot of people who give good advice can't take their own advice, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But, like, I think maybe part of that, thinking onto that, part of that possibly comes from the fact that, like, Armin's not a fighter, so when he was dealing with those bullies, like, he was taking the intellectual high ground. and he's a thinker, but it didn't win. It didn't get him anywhere. They were going to beat him up, and it's only when Eren and Mikasa show up, and I guess from previous incidents have kicked the shit out of these bullies. So Armin has sort of, even though Armin's a thinker and a logical thing, the only solution he's ever seen happen is strength. That's always been the solution. He's grown up around, might
even get rid of the bullies.
Yeah, strength is what solves problems, not brains. So that's probably why he doesn't view himself as very important, even though he's like one of the smartest characters in Attack on Titan. And he's able to come up with some really good strategies. But but it's revealed because he says like he doesn't think he's done anything useful, and then Mikasa makes the hint to him that, or it was either Mikasa or Eren said, without you we'd be dead, and he's like, what? And then they're like, we'll tell you about it later. And then it's because it's revealed that he was the one who went to fetch Hannah's, which is like a pretty significant thing.
That is a great reveal.
If he hadn't, then they would have been eaten.
I'd forgotten about that too.
I'd never realized that.
Yeah, I think it's like several chapters later. I honestly think it's something like
it is.
I think it's when they're. I think they say
it's the canon thing.
Yeah,
I think
it's something like when they say you saved our life. I think that's when they're refueling their gas. I think that's when Armin first hears that, and then I think it's when the canon stuff's about to happen.
Yeah, because Mikasa says it to him.
Yeah, Mikasa must be the one who said it. Then, if it was when they were refueling, unless it was when they were fueling their gas at the very start, and Armin's all shaky and stuff.
It wouldn't have been then, because I think it is the Mikasa moment later.
Yeah, because they didn't have time to explain it. So that would have been the when they were refueling, not when they were fueling up the first time.
It's interesting to actually look at Armin here, because if you kind of look at the first, even if you include Jean in this, those four characters kind of do have arcs already in these, in this first little period we've read, the first 18 chapters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Armin initially comes to like trust in himself and understand. Mikasa has the whole cruel world thing. And then Eren is, I guess, more vague and sort of slow building, because obviously his character arc will be over the whole thing. But he learns to I guess, believe in himself a little bit more and to be less reckless. And I don't know. Does Eren have a neat little arc in this first 18 chapters? He certainly learned some things. I don't know.
I think it's just him reinvigorating his desires, I think, in his first 18.
But Armin's is very much him learning to like believe in himself. And it's interesting because all the characters still struggle continually, and Jean's is sort of the learning to wanting to become a scout and everything that comes along with that. And
I would say that Armin's sort of arc is, I don't know if Armin struggles as much in the next few arcs, but it definitely struggles again when he gets saved. When he gets picked over Erwin, that kind of reignites, I think, the struggle in his mind.
It's like the Jean one where it comes back at the end, because Armin is sort of, again, unsure, but then he sort of has the moment. I remember the last moment in the plane with Onyekapon where he's like, he sort of is like scared because Hanji's dead and he's now commander, but he turns around and he puts like his hand on Onyekapon's shoulder and walks back, and it's sort of like from then on, Armin is sort of this. He is sort of utterly confident in himself and things like that. But I think Attack on Titan does that, where it's sort of like reiterates on their issues in different contexts, changing over time, I guess.
You're always going to bring that up, aren't you?
It's a good video.
Well, I didn't
mean
good video, but I think the point might be better than the video, but the video has some problems. We're not talking about that, though. Armin learns to believe in himself. That's basically Mr. R's first point here, right?
And I think that's also my second point there, which is like it's essentially I think the whole point of Armin is that, I mean, we essentially what we just said, which is that he has a whole character arc here where he doesn't believe in himself, and then his friends tell him he does, and then he realizes he does. I guess initially he realizes that he thinks that he's not useful, is what I would say, and then he learns that he is useful, which is what we just said,
and that they've always viewed him as useful and not sort of a burden. Should we jump right into side character stuff then?
Sure.
Yep.
My first note here is Bertolt. I have no will of my own. I don't remember where this comes from, but I thought it was cute because Bertolt is a bit meek. Bertolt gets some characterization here that'll be what do you call it when it's the same the whole way through? Consistent. Not a lot else to talk about with Bertolt. It's interesting that he does do a lot of talking when they're sitting in the on the beds. And he gives the backstory and stuff. The backstory that we'll later learn how they stole from the one bloke who hung himself, I think, or did they hang him? I remember that was a thing.
That
at
was
the
a
time, but
contention.
think
I
he
at
hung
first thought, I was
himself.
like, did they hang that? I thought they hung that guy at first. Like when it was first saw the cut,
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? No, surely not. But then they
Yeah.
went when they went on and on about how like why he told them those final things. Like I think it became much
Yeah,
more
and
clear
they
the
were
guy
like,
hung
yeah.
himself.
We'll talk a lot more about Bertolt in the future, I'm sure. Our next point is about Jean, who is the main side character, I would say.
Indeed. But my point isn't really that much about characterization, but I had never realized that he is from Trust. It's like they stated in like one line, and I thought it was just really interesting.
The whole OVA is about it. Didn't you watch it? The one with the food?
Is it? Yeah, I remember the
Yeah,
OVA. I mean, I'm pretty sure I just glossed over those OVA. Like I watched them,
Yeah.
but I didn't really pay much attention.
I haven't actually watched them all. To be, I've seen clips.
Yeah, I mean they're fun.
Yeah, I think I've only seen that one once, but the rest of them I
But
have seen, I'm pretty sure.
I guess my point was that I guess first I got a question, which is I wonder did you guys notice if he commented about it at all during the battle for Trust? Because obviously that would have had a big impact on him if he was like born there, like similar to how Shiganshino was for Eren.
I mean, maybe, but at the same, I guess maybe
he's
he
been
just
training
never really,
away, I guess.
I guess he never really cared for
Yeah, I
Trust that much. He was so determined to move into the interior.
Yeah, he kind of hates it.
Yeah, it does say. Yeah, that's interesting.
It's interesting though.
John clearly has mummy issues. That's like.
I'm surprised he didn't. It's a shame he didn't. It's a shame actually. Missed opportunity. He didn't bring up anything about his mum during the battle for Trust because.
Does he ever bring her up outside of that OVA?
I don't think so.
Is that OVA in the manga?
Eren only take the piss out of him and call him a mummy's boy in the OVA as well, or are there moments like that?
Jean definitely has the attitude of a mummy's boy, which I wonder if it's like a post talk thing of something Isayama realized after the fact that like, yeah, Jean is totally a mama's boy. I know Quentin Tarantino had that epiphany about his writing one time way after the fact where he realized that like most of his movies were about like a father-son bond, and he didn't realize that like that must have been there like subconsciously the whole time. It's interesting because even in videos I'll be like, oh, that was the point I was trying to make there way after the fact. So I wonder if that is
there's a chapter, there's
like,
a volume extra. I swear that there's a volume extra. I can't remember where it is of like Jean's mum walking in whilst he's like reading a fucking porno mag or something, like an old
I vaguely remember this too.
And he's like, "Get out of here, woman! Get out of here, old woman," or something.
Yeah,
maybe it is after the OVA. I can't remember.
He's always very mean to his mum.
Yeah, and he doesn't call her mum. He calls her woman or old woman.
Yeah, but yes. Jean is from Trust. I've always had that in my mind.
Well, my second point related to that is that I never realized also that he has his moment that kind of defines him for the rest of the story with Marco in the place that he grew up, just like how Eren has his moment with Carla. It's an interesting parallel that I've just never picked up on.
I never thought about that either, but yes, that is neat.
I love Jean's arc in this sort of stuff. Chapter 18 for Jean is just fucking phenomenal, and it doesn't help. It doesn't hurt that it's drawn so well as well. Like Jean's expression expression when he finds Marco's body, and then also this is completely unrelated to this isn't Jean specific, but Sasha's expression as well. Like I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the way they've got their faces covered, and you have to do everything with the eyes. But it's so good. But that's more of an art thing than a theme thing.
Yeah, we are in the side character thing. So talking about this, there's like this mini thing with Sasha in like, I would say from like chapters, like it's after she misses the Titan and then she freaks out. It's kind of played off for a laugh a little bit where she's like, oh, thank you, Mikasa, you saved me. I love you. I love you. Or maybe, or does Annie save her? Or is it Mikasa? No, Annie saves Connie and then they have a stoic moment and yes. And Sasha's freaking out because Sasha's always with Mikasa and it's a cute little thing. But she has this thing afterwards where when Pixis is giving the speech initially about like the Trust mission, you get a lot of focus on Sasha and how she's reacting to the speech because she's really scared of it. There's also a line that is played off for a laugh, at least in the dub of the anime, where Daz is like freaking out. This is before Pixis has done. This is when like they're shooting cannonballs at Eren and you cut away for like one scene to what all the other cadets are doing. And there's this line about how Sasha like she said something about her stomach growling, but it's clear in the manga that she's like making that joke as like a cope for how terrified she is about what's going on. Whereas in the anime, I remember it being just like Sasha doesn't care about all the terrifying shit that's going on. She's making a wacky joke about her stomach hurting, which was really, I guess it added a lot of depth to Sasha to me, at least initially. The moment in the speech though is really good, where she sort of is won over and she is like very scared.
She's terrified. She was also quite ashamed of
herself
herself as well for begging for her life from a Titan.
There is some shame there.
Also, this might be a completely minor thing or completely not really an intentional thing, but I've just realized that Sasha's moment during the cleanup is seeing the result.
I forgot that.
Is seeing the result of a Titan eating too much, and her big meme is that she's always eating and always hungry. And like
she's like terrified at the Titan vomit.
Yeah. Which is really interesting, because that's the only time in the entire manga that's brought up, the Titan puke.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's the only time they're around Titans that have eaten a lot, I guess. Because all the Shinganshina ones are dead, and then they're going into the forest where they assumingly don't get a lot of eaten.
Yeah, it's just I just suddenly realized it's like, oh, the one time they bring up, it's just a little.
Yeah.
I don't think it really is meant to make any kind of
explanation
impact
for why they don't have
Shiganshina.
assholes.
Yeah, I don't think it's meant to be any kind of anything to do with like Sasha and food. I just thought it was kind of funny there, just literally seeing it right there, that it's like Sasha's moment is looking at a Titan that's eating too much, and her big thing is about always wanting to eat.
On the other side of Sasha is Connie, and how much he's just like, he gets characterization by kind of being the incidental character that's around, like the other character in a bunch of scenes, where again he finds Armin and he's initially talking to Armin and trying to ask him what happened, and Yamiya pipes in or whatever for like her 2 lines, and then Historia has 1 line. But then like when go ahead.
I was gonna say a big part of that is again because Connie was just a place filler at that point in the manga.
I feel like that's sort of the opposite of that, though. Like, he's given a lot here. Because the other moment I was going to build to is... I'm more in terms of not being given an arc yet. Like, because his arc comes in Clash of the Titans. Yeah.
I would say more... Like, I mean, it's just that Connie was originally just... Isayama needed another top 10 recruit, and Connie was sort of created to fill that space originally.
Yeah.
So I think for the next few chapters, he was given dialogue, but I feel like any character could have been given that dialogue, and whoever he designed for that top 10 recruit would have been given that moment.
It is a little bit specialized to Connie, because the next part is when he is separated with Mikasa and Armin, and and he gets that thing. There's like a bunch where I was like, Connie is around a whole lot. To sort of be like, remember Connie. Connie will be a character that's around, continuing. But yeah, those were 2 that I noticed that just like they got not quite a bit of characterization, but more than I assumed they had earlier on. They certainly have more than like Historia and Ymir and I would say Marco probably has more than them, I guess. Do you really? About Historia and Ymir?
Yeah, I have a whole point about that.
They do get that whole moment in that like chapter later on, which is true. But I think that's where we're up to now. So you can go into the.
Well, we talked about Jean's arc, I guess.
I mean, we've talked about it. It's great. It's so fucking good.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it is. There's not much to say. It's just great.
Fire scene is the campfire, the sort of the burning bodies, the burning bones scene is one of the best sort of scenes in the entire 4 volumes that we read.
Yeah,
I agree. It's probably my favorite, honestly. It's great.
I like the tug.
Yeah, that's actually,
that can mean
I think it might be the tug.
Jesus.
But also, the hand grab. Ooh, that can be something too with Armin and Eren. And again, we like all the scenes. Let's not get into that right now. Historia and Ymir.
Historia and Ymir. Yes, we get one. I mean, we get them in a few scenes. We get one big scene with them, with Sasha. Jesus, Sasha. Oh my god! I feel like I don't even know how to say it. I don't know if I've ever said Sasha out loud.
I feel like I say Sasha.
Yeah, so we get there. Sasha. Yeah. Now you know what? It doesn't matter. We get
John, Jean, June.
My goodness.
Chapter 15, they're good, you're
Yes,
telling us.
we get them in chapter 15. They're great. We get immediately. We understand them both. I mean, I don't know if we'd understand them on first read, but on a reread, they say everything we need to know about them. Basically, that Ymir. What have I got here? Ymir reads Historia
She
perfectly.
pretends to be unselfish. No, she
Yeah.
pretends to be selfish, but she's actually being unselfish because she's the real Ymir that was unselfish, unlike that bitch Ymir.
Yeah. So it works for both
Yeah.
of them. Yeah, like we get. Yeah, essentially it's that exactly. And for Historia, we see that she's trying to get validation from Ymir.
Yeah.
And trying to be someone she's not. I don't know. I like it. I like
The
the
martyr
first.
thing plays into this. Historia wants to be a martyr in a lot of ways. Historia and Ymir, they don't get much, but what they do get is interesting. It does set up everything for the future here in chapter 15. Now we've got a Mr. R point. We're going to talk about Levi, I believe.
Yes, we are in the
take it
little
away,
introduction
Mr.
to
R.
Levi. Now I needed to double check things in the manga when I was making this point, because I said he's introduced as hating dirt, and then I was like, no, wait a second, does that come later on? But he does indicate that he hates that he got dirty after he killed those two titans. So we get that immediately, that he doesn't like
even
dirt.
before that, with the Hanji thing, Hanji's like, because Eren's like geeking out over him, and Hanji's like, if only they knew what a clean freak you are. It's interesting that Levi's kind of defining characteristic, I think, that Isayama's maybe original idea for Levi was like, he's really strong, but his quirk is that he hates cleaning and stuff.
Yeah, and the thing is, the blood that he gets on him from the Titans will evaporate anyway, but he's still disgusted by it. That's like a pretty strong introduction, and we see how obsessive that gets later in the next arc. But despite that, without even
blood that doesn't go away, he grabs
without a fraction of hesitation, he grabs his dying comrade's hand and holds it until he dies. And even though we get this constant coldness, and in the manga, outright rudeness, like Levi just keeps talking about like taking a shit and stuff throughout the manga. Like he's a fucking horrible mouthy bastard in the manga.
From the underground.
It's so good. From the underground. He grew up in the shitty circumstances, but he cares a lot. Like I think back to the anime, we'll get to it. I remember this scene so vividly in the anime because I go back and rewatch reaction shots from it all the time. I can't remember what it looks like in the manga, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it. When he finds the bodies of his squad in the anime, he has this almost blank expression on his face, and like we see it when when his squad when Zeke turns all his 30 squad members into titans in the forest, and as he's falling between them, you see that his eyes sort of start to half close. Same forest. His eyes sort of start to half close, and it's that expression. And even though it looks almost neutral and uncaring, it couldn't be further from that. It's like that is the deep, deep pain that he is like suppressing, and he does truly care. He may care more than a lot of other characters in the story.
I think he absolutely cares the most. I think that's like Levi's defining trait.
But the thing is, on the surface, it looks like he's just some cold badass, but he does, like, even in this moment, we see straight away, this is a man who deeply cares about his comrades and views every death as a genuine tragedy. And it's actually something there's a little addition, again, we'll come to this when we do anime comparisons more next time. This was an anime exclusive in the next arc, where he gave the badge, Petra's badge, to another soldier and said it was their friend. That was really cute. He does. I think that was a really good moment from the anime, and I think it really does show that the man cares.
Yeah, it's like, because that moment particularly, you expect like the traditional kind of Levi type character of sort of like the hardened commander or whatever would scream at them, because they really did fuck up in that moment. They lost all the bodies and like 2 of their friends got eaten or whatever. But Levi in that moment does like a nice thing for the person, and that's like, even though that is a filler scene, I'm pretty sure like things like that happen in the manga all the time. Just notice, I feel like I have to have noticed this before, and I've probably talked about this before, but it's just been reiterated in all the stuff we've just been talking about. Isayama is like, a lot of his characters are very stoic, and sort of they have that hardened shell that would like indicate that they don't actually care. This sort of badass shell, like Annie, Mikasa, Ymir. I feel like it's all the girls. Levi is like this too, but secretly like they care more than the characters that aren't like that. And it's just sort of like the old like don't judge a book by its cover idiom, or even like what a tsundere is, about pretending that like they don't like you but secretly they like you a lot deep down, or whatever, or just sort of sarcastic humor in general, which I feel like Attack on Titan is sarcastic in some ways. It is sort of that like secret heart of gold thing.
Yeah, God, I'm looking back at those
You gotta
Levi
love it every
pages,
time.
and the fact that there is just like, you know, the dying soldier, he holds up his bloody hand, and there's just a panel of like a bloody hand
And he
in front of
grabs.
Levi, and then the next panel on the next page, it's a page turn moment.
Yep,
No question,
paneling
grabs
is
the
great
hand.
there.
Yeah, so good.
It's good.
He's such a good fucking character. I used to not be
say
all
he was
that.
the
I remember
best.
for a long time I wasn't all that sold on Levi being S tier, but you know, having rewatched and now doing this reread, nah, even from the beginning, he's a king. We stan our short king. He's great.
Mm-hmm. If only there was a video about Levi being the best character in Attack on Titan that everybody could go watch. But actually, I'm pretty sure I put Gabby at the top of the tier list, and I changed my
Very
mind on
good.
that.
Oh no.
But I think that's Levi covered. He doesn't do an awful lot. He'll certainly be getting more talk as we progress. What's the next RE point here?
So this one is it's about Annie. Now, you guys,
My
as
favorite.
far as I understand, yeah, you guys like Annie a lot, right? Is that accurate?
Annie, I think I ranked second, I think, in my tier list,
Okay, so
just behind Reiner.
Okay, for me, I haven't really thought much about Annie just throughout the whole story, so I don't really know how accurate this point is. So I'm going to see what you guys think. But she says that during the cadet training, I refuse to be one of those morons who enjoys playing soldier in this pathetic world. And to me, that just feels like it's showing her integrity and how she sticks to that throughout the rest of the story. Does that feel accurate to you guys?
It's
As
interesting
Annie
because it kind
fans?
of ties a little bit into like what I was just saying about the stoicness. Now that would lead me to believe that she actually doesn't believe any of this, and she actually is one of the morons, and she's just like in self-denial. I think that there is an important moment because I remember this in the trailer for the first dub trailer of Attack on Titan season 1, which would have been part 1 because it would have just been the first 12 episodes. I think it ends with, and it's funny because the female Titan stuff isn't even in that. But it ends with like Annie's monologue from this scene where it's sort of like, don't be a fool that plays this game or whatever. It's changed because of the dub dialogue or whatever. And in this moment, because that is my original way of seeing a lot of this, that moment to me always like defined Annie as sort of like she's the one that sees it for how it really is or whatever.
I mean, that's the way
feel
I
like
see her
that's-
now. But is that, is
Yeah, I
that not
feel like
accurate?
that's consistent with her character. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking through things here.
Yeah.
Um,
Like, I'm personally
Annie.
interested to see where this goes because, yeah, I never really paid much attention to her, but I know how much you guys
Because
like her. So.
obviously she doesn't believe in all the Marley shit. Like she thinks Ryan is a moron and she like kicks the shit out of him for it. But then like the whole, I guess thematically it is a bad thing that Ryan gets up and like overwhelms her and chokes her out or whatever. But like Ryan still wins in that scenario. So it's kind of like thematically that is kind of still colored as a bad thing, even though it's kind of a triumphant moment in that chapter for Reiner as a character and developing into that Marcel like. I don't know, I'm thinking through a lot of things here. This might be something we have to revisit. Mr. R,
Yep.
we call on you to settle our confusion here. Do you also want to resign to returning to this? Because we will be talking a lot about Annie.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I just didn't read into Annie's points enough. Like it is good. For as much as I love the character, it is a bit of an interesting one.
Hold on, I just thought of something.
The stuff I was noticing with Annie. Sorry.
No, go.
I was gonna say the stuff I was noticing more with Annie was like the little subtleties in her relationship with Eren. I guess I wasn't really paying as much attention to the bigger talking points, like the little looks she gives Eren, and like the small smile, and like I think it's like right at the end of the training arc where like this one I really like. It's right at the end of chapter 17. And
I was about to bring this up.
It's like, I wouldn't mind teaching, and he's like, no thanks, it really hurts. And there's just this like reaction shot. It's like the wind, just has a little sound effect of, and Annie's just looking at him, like,
and then she kicks in.
Oh please, I insist. And then she just fucking bodies him. I love that. That's the shit I was living for when I was rereading it.
I think the point might be actually to that scene is that she's kind of, this line is kind of to justify why she's like slacking off. in this training session. But then clearly with the last Eren scene, it shows that actually she does kind of want to participate and teach him some things. So that could be like her contradicting this of like, no, she does kind of just want to be friends. But I guess that's not really the essence of the talking point here. I think this is something we will revisit.
Yep.
Just quickly, so we can get this in for the battery goes to that. We've got the last Reiner point here, which is a Mr. R point.
Yes. The fear in Reiner's eyes when he has to fight Annie, and we originally assume at the time that it's just because he knows that she's a good fighter, or he's just like witnessed her kick Eren's ass and is worried for himself. But with a bit of change in context, we know how deep that will run. We know how much the issues that he has, and how much he's probably filled with regret for trying to sick Eren on her as like a sort of a, proxy. I guess a little moment. It's interesting why he did try and get Eren to single out Annie there. Maybe like so he wasn't overbearing on her.
This is kind of explained in a thing we get later, but he's kind of mad at her at this point for like not really like doing anything because Annie's secretly sneaking out to go and have fights with Kenny in the street. Remember, so she's like kind of tired, and that's another reason why she doesn't really participate.
Yeah, there's the perceived lack of results from her. I mean, I think he does it, and I think there's maybe also the fact that I guess it's hard to tell how much Reiner has sunk into his own delusions at that point, where he's like annoyed that I think Annie is potentially not almost like getting along with some of the folks. You know, she doesn't view them the way he views them.
Yeah, because he very much takes the approach of like befriending them and things like that as sort of like a cover, where we know actually he is sort of falling into friendship with them, but he doesn't like that she's so distant and things like that.
But at the same time, when she is friendly with them, I think he's worried that it is genuine.
Yeah,
perhaps
because
she is genuine. She is genuinely friendly with Eren. Like I don't think there's any fakery there. Like I don't think she doesn't fake
it's
anything.
Definitely
she doesn't blow her cover or anything. But she doesn't fake anything. She stick, as you said. Well, I guess maybe that ties into she sticks with what she believes. It's great. I like it.
Okay, so when it comes to character interaction, I have something I want to discuss with you guys, which I think we might have brought it up before, but I don't know if it was in like this actual recording session or in one of the previous ones that are lost now. But there is that scene. I don't remember what chapter, but it's like with
3.
Chapter 3. Is it that early on? But essentially,
because it's one of the pre.
Oh, I have actually written chapter 3 here. Yeah. Anyway, so the scene I'm talking about is when, man, I don't even remember the context of the scene, but essentially there's a fight going on between Jean and Eren, and Mikasa steps in and picks up Eren like a little baby, and in my opinion, I found it very over the shoulder. Well, it's not even over the I mean, over the shoulder eventually, but like she like cradles him like a little baby and walks around, and everyone's laughing at him. And in my interpretation, I thought it was just like embarrassing and a cruel thing to do to Eren. But yeah, what do you guys think about that?
I think this the scene kind of doesn't work in the explanation I'm about to give, because it kind of makes it seem like a retcon. But I think because he kind of gets over this earlier in a chapter we see later, the fighting with Jean thing, and sort of learning to control his emotions. But besides that, I think it's just supposed to be, well, Eren deserves to be laughed at if he's going to have a fight or whatever. I think Jean gets some sort of comeuppance too. Maybe just him, like Mikasa not caring about him at all. And it's the first he's like into her a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was cute, and it was, haha, look at how strong Mikasa is, big strong girl. Pick up
That's
Eren.
True.
What an idiot.
I mean, the thing is, all the interactions in that section are so good, though. Like
that is
the bit before where they're having their back and forth. Again, I really love the bit where Eren makes the joke about Jean's head being soft enough for him, and Reiner like spits beer out his nose all over Armin.
Yeah. So
it's
I guess
great. I'm pretty sure there's an Annie stare from the corner too.
I would say that I do like this interaction. Right? It's just like, to me, it's another element of Mikasa to me, where it's like, it makes her
she
a lot
likes
more.
To embarrass him?
Yeah, like not likes to, but she is embarrassing him in a way. Like it's it just shows again that she's not really
That's
thinking
definitely
about what he
true.
wants in a way. I don't know.
The thing is, I think as well, it's kind of important. It's kind of good that it happened there. I feel like if the anime had done it at the time when the graduation happened in the anime, it wouldn't have been quite the same because this
They
happens.
do that for the first fight. Yeah, that's true. That is a change.
Like, because that never happens in the anime because the first fight we see between Eren and Jean is when they're in the camp, and
Yeah, it's like
by
the
the time we
first
get to
night,
by the
right?
yeah, in the first night, but by the time we get to the later one, I think for Mikasa to do it then, it would feel a bit. I think it's almost meant to be like an establishing moment of like her post time skip self, her post first time skip self.
Yeah.
But I think doing it later on perhaps wouldn't have felt quite right. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe. It's a weird little hang-up Ari's got here.
Yes,
I'm trying to think of future stuff that's in this sort of like, because she definitely does embarrass him, but it's usually not physically. It's usually some shit she'll say, or
Yeah.
I can't even think of an example right now. But yeah,
Well, I mean, she grasses on him about Eren wanting to join the Survey Corps, but that happens at the very beginning, obviously.
yeah. I was thinking afterwards. There's just moments where she's like overprotective in front of people. I think that might grind Eren's gears, for lack of a better term. But yeah,
Small.
yeah, that's the conclusion here. The only other thing here in character interaction, which I haven't even read, is my point about the entire Armin and Eren meeting Reiner and Bertolt scene is so much better in the manga, and every part is great in terms of character interaction. Now, to be honest, I don't remember why I wrote this. I don't remember exactly what I liked better. I feel like there's added stuff in the anime. I remember because they like there's like a shot of like a river and shit, and they're walking in the dark to go and train Eren for a thing, which the whole conversation just happens sort of on the bunk bed in the manga. I must be a chapter off because I'm trying to look for it. But Mr. R, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, in the anime, they take the conversation outside as they're walking up a hill, presumably when they're not meant to be leaving the door, not meant to be leaving the bunks or anything. Like, what are they going to go up and? It's not entirely clear what they're doing at that point. It's a nice shot in the anime, but
yeah, it is. Cool little nature shot. You know what? The most unrealistic thing about Attack on Titan is that we don't hear about any girls dropping out for getting pregnant. If they're all living together in a military barracks, very
Jesus
unrealistic.
Christ.
Isayama hates sex.
There's no sex in Attack on Titan. It's not a thing.
Yes.
That's a take, Kyle.
I feel like I've said that a million times before. I feel like you hear stories about like girls in grade 7 going to Canberra trips for 1 week and coming back pregnant or some shit. It's like,
I've
Jesus.
never heard
Is this an Australia thing?
I've never heard that.
I mean, okay, don't get me wrong. The UK has a big teen pregnancy problem as well. Like there were. I'm pretty sure
I
there
don't
was
think
a girl.
Australia is especially bad.
There was a girl in the
Grade
year
7
below
is a
me, I
little
think,
early,
who got pregnant at like 15 or something.
Oh, there were so many girls at my high school through every grade. There was one in grade 8 that got pregnant. There was one in grade 10 that got pregnant, and plenty in grade 12 that got pregnant. So maybe it is an issue. Haven't heard of condoms apparently over here.
I mean, does Australia? You guys have like a conservative Christian government, don't you?
No, there's a lot of sex education stuff. Yeah,
Oh, really?
I don't think it's similar to because the nurse would come out like once a term and give a speech about condoms and how you can buy condoms wherever. They'll give them to you even if you're fucking 14 or whatever. So yeah, I feel like that's.
Wait, who would come? A nurse?
It's just kids being stupid. Yeah, there was we had like a school nurse. This is a complete tangent. But we had a school nurse that would come out and she would take sex questions and she was funny. She like one time, this is so off topic, but it is a good story. One time, like you could write questions on a piece of paper anonymously, put them in a jar, and she would read them out about a sex topic in case you were like nervous. And one of the questions was, how much wanking is too much wanking? And she read this out in front of us with like 14. The group goes up in laughter, and she actually answered it. She's like, oh, well, I guess when you're chafing and bleeding, you should probably stop. So she like went with it. She was real good.
Yeah, that's cool. No, I had nothing.
Maybe that sounds a lot better than the education we got. Ours was incredibly mismatched. Like some classes got much better quality education than others because we had like we had our each our year group was split into like 4 houses, and each house had its own head of house, and it was the head of house that did like our our equivalent of our social education, our social
Jesus.
studies. So our house got pretty shit social education and sex education
Not
in
only
high school.
that, not only the nurse thing, but I feel like every year in HBE, like we'd do like a 4-week unit on
Yeah,
sex
that's where I
ed.
got.
I feel like
Yeah,
it was even way better. We had consent talks all the time.
yeah, that's where I got most of my
One
stuff
like
from.
I
And
remember
the world has changed since I was in school.
that is true. You are an old bastard. So
Like I was in
Ari's
school
kind of old
from
too. So
I was in
I
school from
was in school 3
2004
years
to
ago. So.
2010. So
My goodness.
Well, I was 2014 to 2018. So at least that's my high schooling years. So. Much more recent. Things have changed on the sex front, I think. But anyway, we're trying to get all this shit in, and we got a
Yes,
limited time
yes.
here because of my
Yeah,
shitty
let's-
laptop battery. So enough about Eren not getting somebody pregnant. I'm scrolling through the scene. I don't know. It must be the little details. I like the sketch of Bertolt's fake looking out the window and seeing the Titan is terrifying. I feel like they did that okay in the anime too. I feel like it's a lot more fleshed out here. They probably talk a little bit more, and that's probably why I wrote down the character interaction thing. I feel like this portion, this 4-chapter sort of flashback to the training camp portion, does do a real good job at characterization, and it's very sort of efficient. Even before that, when Eren's asking everybody for help and Connie has his like his reason for why he doesn't want to help, and Jean has his reason, and they're kind of making fun of Eren. It feels very on brand, and Marco kind of wants to help, and points him in the direction of Reiner and Bertolt, and it's good. What a good time! What a good series.
Absolutely.
That's all I think we have on the character interaction section, unless anybody wants to tell me otherwise.
I want to just bring up something, actually. I'm looking over those pages now, and it's just a little thing that comes up more to do with the manga anime comparison, but considering we've been making those all over and probably won't be going through the list in a lot of detail, it's a real appreciation I have for how Isayama, I think I've said this before as well, but I'll say it again, how Isayama draws the characters and makes them actually look a bit more like their age in this chapter. Like in the anime, we were meant to believe that
they
just
have core
use
character designs.
they use the 15-year-old character designs for when they're 12 as well. Like the characters don't age between the start and the end of the training arc in the anime, but the manga, like Reiner's not fucking built like an absolute tank in this scene. He looks still fairly skinny,
Young,
he's got like his facial definition, but he doesn't look like fucking Brock Lesnar yet.
Yeah. In terms of him being built, actually, there is a scene that chronologically happens before this where we see him with his shirt off when he's like helping plow the land, where he is built like that, though his face does not look as older or masculine.
I mean, Isayama definitely improved upon things, but you know what I mean. Like when he shows up for the first time in the anime, he looks about 24.
He's 15. Yeah. Yeah, it is true. They have character designs, and they kept them for the whole training arc. But yeah, that is a difference. I think that's it on the character interaction front.
Yep.
The question is, where should we go from here? Are we going to go? Any suggestions? We did themes already. We can do the parallels.
All right.
I have one at the top, and then there's a lot of Ari ones. Maybe I should go through mine quickly. Now, I haven't read through them in a while, so Armin grabbing and not grabbing Eren's hand in chapter 1. Oh, this is actually a big one. There is a big moment in the Mali arc when Eren and Armin are reunited, where there's like a lot of importance. What's the word I'm looking for here? There's a lot of importance placed on Armin grabbing Eren's hand and him pulling him back up, and there is a lot of them grabbing hands a lot. In the last chapter, they hold hands. I don't know if that's a continuation of this, of sort of like when they're together and when they're not. But in chapter 1, this was actually something from my old reread notes like a year and a half ago. Armin says like, "Oh, I don't need the hand," and he stands up on himself and he like dusts himself off after they like fend off the bullies. I don't know if this is important or if this comes through all the time. I'm trying to think. I feel like there is another big moment where they like either don't or do grab hands. Besides the bite, which we've already talked about, and then after Eren comes back in chapter 7 or whatever, I feel like there's another one at some point. But I can't think of it now. I remember this might have should have gone in the Motifs section, maybe, to something to keep an eye on when they grab hands and when they don't. do either of you remember or place any importance on this hand grabbing stuff? Or am I talking out my ass here?
I think like the parallel that you were talking about between this and then like later on in Liberia, like I think that's pretty clear. Other stuff, I think it'll depend on the context, like when we get to it. But yeah, I think it's pretty big.
Yeah, I feel like there's like has to be another big moment. I feel
think,
like when
yeah.
I've thought about this in the
True.
past, there's been more to list
Was it?
off.
Oh,
When trying to
wait.
go
Did
through
you
the
list
arc
the one
with-
when they're like season 3, part 2, the uprising? I don't remember if you just talked about that or I missed it.
Well, that's part 1, but no, I didn't talk about that. Which one are you talking about?
Like when they're coming out of
Which
the,
Oh yes,
the-
when he comes out of the thing. Yes, that is I think the other one I was forgetting. When they're coming out of the
Armin
rod
grab-
race weird thing. Mr. R?
I was going to say, does Armin grab Eren's hand in Paths in chapter 139? Like to reassure him at any
No, they
point?
hold
I know it's a bit
hands afterwards and then they hug.
I know it's a bit of a different context. I was just wondering if...
Yeah. This is another to be
Yeah.
watch this space meme, I think. But yes, that did happen, and that was from the old notes. I don't even think I did notice that this time through until I was going through my old notes on my old document. But I have one more down here, and then we'll let Ari go. The scene where Shardis goes through the strengths and weaknesses of the trainees is similar to the scene in the Mali arc where Magath does the same thing for the warriors, and then somebody's put in colored text here, I assume it was Ari, chapter 18 to chapter 1 to chapter 70, not 70, 95. It's cool. Obviously, Magath and Shardis are paralleled. They die together. And the seeds for that are kind of sown back here in 18, which is cute. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about that. Ari, do you want to go through yours now?
Sure, I've got quite a few. So, I guess probably the biggest one to me was chapter 2 and 86, which both have the same title, which is That Day, which I found pretty crazy because I didn't know you could just name the chapters the same thing. But I mean, there's nothing stopping you.
I had no idea 86 was called that.
Yeah,
I was convinced. I
86.
kept getting confused because I assumed that they couldn't have had the same name.
It is.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I also thought.
It is That Day.
But it is That Day, and also they both have the same image shown, like in them, of like Grisha when he's showing the history book to Zeke. Or maybe it's Zeke showing. Yeah, I think it is.
Oh,
like
yes.
And then we also see the same one in
on.
chapter 2, yeah. Of that like big titan grabbing someone, I think, from memory.
You know, when I saw That Day as chapter 2, I was like, isn't that like a name of an episode that's way later?
Yeah,
I didn't think the manga does it too. It's interesting because it kind of redefines the starting point of the series in 86. It's like you think it's the Eren thing, but it's actually the Grisha thing. And they actually repeat on that later when it's like when Eren says, "Dad, did you start this story?" and all that. It's actually kind of clever, I think.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
They just fucked up.
No, I think this is definitely intentional.
It's the same fucking thing.
Yeah, and there's also
Does that mean Armin's great?
I just lost Kyle.
Yeah, I thought I'd cut out, but I guess that was Kyle. Like,
okay, so it was
'cause
Kyle.
I was like, I didn't
Kyle
hear anyway.
failing
Yeah. Okay, I guess we'll just wait.
Well, we cut out there for a second, and we can't exactly remember what the last thing that my mic picked up, because I was the one that fucked up. So we were talking about That Day having 2 chapter titles and how they both feature the same like old textbook image of a Titan eating a bunch of blokes. The one that opens chapter 2 and is featured in chapter 86, and how it's wacky and a connection. And we also talked about redefining that day, or the day when things started. Not being the Shinganshina moment where Bertolt broke down the walls, but the Grisha moment when Grisha runs outside the walls and sort of starts the knockdown effect of everything.
I think even more specifically, it could. I mean, that's probably honestly more accurate now that I think about it. But when I was writing this note, I was thinking more when Eren loses Kala, and then when Grisha loses Faye. Like those are the 2 things that define them. But I also like just leaving the wall and the wall.
It's the defining start to their journey.
Yeah, it sort of starts as a personal thing, I guess.
Oh, hello.
Well, we fucked up again, but here we go. You're getting some awkward cuts in this final portion of our fucking discussion here. What were we saying, fellas, about Grisha and no, Faye and Carla's death or something to that effect?
I mean, I was just saying that, like, I was saying that for each of them, that's like the defining moment that day. It's the day that each of their stories began, which is pretty obvious. It's not like it's not like any kind of massive, big brain take or anything.
But yeah, I didn't remember that day was also the title for 86.
Crazy stuff.
I'll think more about this. Because most of chapter 2 is in episode 1. So is there only one that day in the anime? Is there only one anime episode called that day? Do we recall?
So.
Do we know?
I know in the one in season.
I think. Yeah, well, it'd be hard to tell because season 1's obviously got such a different timeline to it. I think.
Yeah, because episode.
Yeah, they have those different titles too, where they're
1.
long. Yeah.
Which is like 2,000 years.
Yeah. But yeah. Dude, what's the...
Yeah.
We got another one here, Ari.
So chapter 3 and chapter 72. So in chapter 3, we have Eren, Mikasa, and Armin sitting on the steps contemplating if what they're gonna join, essentially, if they're gonna join the scouts or the garrison or anything like that.
Oh yes, and there's a Levi thingy later.
So in chapter 72 again, we see it, but in chapter 72, when they're sitting on the steps, they're reflecting on whether the decisions they made led them to what they wanted to achieve eventually. Like they're kind of reflecting, whereas in the first one they were looking forward in the future. It's a neat parallel, I thought.
Chapter 72 is a massive callback to
these early
chapter
days.
3 in those early moments, because Jean and Eren fight again. It's funny, and they have to tie Sasha up and all this shit. This is Flock's first major appearance, I'm pretty sure too. But yeah, this second version of the scene in 72, I feel like always stands out to me as like the Levi listening in is a very interesting. And he kind of looks sad at the end almost. It's kind of interesting characterization for Levi. But we certainly don't want to talk about that until we get to it. But this is right before the return to Shinganshina, before they set out on their final sort of original Attack on Titan mission, before everything changes from Marley moving forward. But yes, that is another parallel.
Before we carry on, I just checked. Both the episodes are called That Day as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There is episode 2 called That Day?
Episode 2 is called That Day. Well, it's technically called That Day, the full Ganshina Part 2, but it's called That Day. And then the episode after the basement is called That Day as well.
Huh, interesting.
Oh, fuck me. Well, it's obviously something important and not a fuck up if they, if Isam wanted to reiterate it again, or whoever. It is interesting about the redefining thing, because that is kind of an important part, I feel like, stressing that sort of Grisha is the start of this story more than Eren. That could have a few different implications, but we're continuing on. You've got a chapter 4 and chapter 82 one here.
Yep. So chapter 4, chapter 82. In chapter 4, we've got Eren. When he's saving Armin, he essentially shouts to Armin that we're gonna go see the outside world, and then Eren dies, like, quote unquote. And then again in chapter 82, we have the complete opposite, where Armin is giving the speech to Eren in the battle in Shiganshina. And
it's also a fake out death?
It is. Again, we get another fake out death. So Armin tells him that we're going to see the outside world, and then Armin, quote unquote, dies. Just like Eren did back in the day, and
and Armin comes back as a Titan.
Oh man, I didn't even. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah,
fucking hell, yeah.
it's a very direct parallel.
Yeah, I've never thought about that until this moment, but yeah,
that
actually is kind of insane.
Yeah,
this is kind of Armin's episode 5, chapter 4 moment. But there you go. Ari is firing away with these.
Yes.
That day, this one, my mind's blown. And he's still going. He's got a chapter 5 one now.
Yeah, well, this one's probably a bit more obvious, I think. In chapter 5 and chapter 109. So in chapter 5, we see Mikasa salute Louise, and then she gets a headache. And then in chapter 109, we see Louise salute Mikasa, and then Mikasa gets another
salute
headache.
Mikasa.
So it's the same.
Oh,
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking the
Wait,
headache
what were
thing.
you thinking?
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking late. Is this the one? Isn't there another salute Louise gives? No. I was thinking it was Louise giving the salute outside of Mikasa's cell. Is that the moment here?
I'm thinking of
Yeah, but instead it's Louise is in the cell.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of.
Okay, yeah, I was.
Maybe
I was
Mikasa
fucking
just
up.
hates fascists, and she knew even back then.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. You know, she's saving fascist lives. Would you kill baby Louise if you could?
I mean, baby
um,
Louise. I mean, Louise's fascism is directly a result of
Yes.
Flock. Like,
Yes. Just looking at 109 here, it also has redraws of the stabbing scene, which is what Mikasa remembers when she gets a headache. So it's Eren stabbing, not like her
Well, it's her
mother
point
and
of
dad
view, though.
getting stabbed. Yeah, it is. Oh,
wasn't it
well,
something
not
to do with
directly because
like?
we see young Mikasa here.
Oh,
but...
Wasn't there a comparison somewhere, like a video? I can't even remember if it was one of you guys that did it. One of your videos. Now I'm drawing a blank here. That like it's some weird thing because the stabbing, like, you know, when you salute over your heart, and when Eren was stabbing, he was stabbing the guy in the heart.
Yeah, I
with the
think
knife.
I remember somebody bringing that up in like a chapter discussion. I don't think it was my point originally, unless this is a point Re.
No. I've got a
made
heart
in a
one about
video.
Ymir, but that's a different one.
Yeah. But yeah, I do remember people bringing that up. But yeah, that wasn't one of my points. But you might have seen it in one of my videos. Stealing things from chat. I love to do it. But Re's got another one.
The
here.
final
He's got
one.
Chapter 10.
And perhaps the most discussed already, like in the past when we were reading the manga. But chapter 10, we get I don't know what his name is, but the commander guy that's yelling at Armin essentially to like
Chris Sabat.
Yeah, Chris Sabat in the dub, telling like why essentially I don't know how to describe this, but he's angry and he's like, oh, how can we trust you're not going to turn to a Titan, blah blah blah. And then we get that same scene happening again in 139 with Secretary Mueller.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a very cool parallel. In one scene it goes poorly, the other scene it succeeds, and it's great. And I've written a whole paragraph on this before.
Different sides as well.
Yeah, it's great.
But indeed, it is another parallel. I don't know if I have much to add about this one though.
My final parallel.
That's that section. Are we going straight into motifs? We've got miscellaneous. We've got anime comparisons. I think we should probably do motifs, huh?
Probably.
Yep. Let's do it.
Well, I guess mine's at the top, and then Ari's got a bunch. I guess I'll try and go through mine quickly. I think post Boulder might be the first time we get the narrator squib. Oh, okay. So at the end of each Attack on Titan arc, they usually do, or sometimes even at the beginning. No, I guess it's at the end. Because the end of some arcs is the beginning of other arcs. That's funny how that works. But at the end of every arc, and this is even true in 139, we get sort of like blurbs from a narrator about like sort of explaining how things finished up in the arcs. Like in this one, we get like they say, like they basically cut away after Levi shows up and basically say, in the coming days, the rest of the scouts and the scouts and the rest of the garrison cleared out all the Titans in Trust, all the remaining Titans in Trust. But it wasn't cause for celebration because of all the lives that were lost to get Trust back. I know, especially after the basement, like they do the thing where they show Hanji's machine and they say Hanji cleared out all the Titans and the whole fucking island with her machine, or the scouts got rid of the rest. There's always like a narrator wrap up, and it's not it's new information, so it's not like a recap, but of like how sort of the logistics of things are handled afterwards. It's cool. I like that sort of thing. And the information it kind of dumps. It happens again in 139.
Yeah,
but I think that's what I wrote down here. Yeah. I know this happens after the return to Shingachina arc when they explain Hanji's contraption killed off most of the Titans. It seems like an end of arc tradition. It's cute. I like it. It gives an almost calming, bittersweet feeling. But far too many lives were lost for them to revel in victory is the quote from this one. I feel like something to that effect is also said in those other examples as well. I don't know if this happens every arc. I feel like it might happen at the end of the female Titan arc. I'm not sure, but I'll keep an eye on that because this is in the motif section. The motif section we're supposed to keep an eye on.
It also
because they repeat.
Well, I mean, this is a strange thing, I guess, but I know Mikasa has her like moment with those square things in 123, which in the anime at least it's the end of an arc, and as in it's the end of the season, but like it doesn't really make sense in the manga's context.
Ah, they did save that, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe. But yeah. I don't think the one from this is supposed to be from a character's perspective, though I feel like the narrator in the dub, because that's all I remember, is Armin's voice actor.
Well, I think I have like this big theory about that. I mean, the narrator I know in
that
the
was an
first
old theory
is...
that Armin was like the narrator of the series.
Well, that's the reason I think it
2014.
Like in chapter 139, we get him reading his story as letter, which is how we get the information about the future. Well, not the future, but like post the Titans going
how
away.
They get it, yeah.
Which is kind of the wrap up of. It turns out Armin was the narrator this whole time, at least to me, because that's the only time it gets revealed like clearly that it is Armin who's reading out these square things. Which is like a theory. I don't know if it confirms it or anything, but that's how I always saw it.
Well, the dub would seem to indicate this, and he is like the logistics, figuring things out type of bloke, so I guess it makes sense. But
isn't he also the narrator in the sub? Or am I?
Yeah, in the sub.
I have no idea. I can't tell the voices apart, really.
I'm pretty sure, at least in the opening episode, in that monologue, it is Armin's voice actor from memory. But I don't remember.
I mean, that could very well have been a note that Isayama gave them. If you want to have a narrator, use Armin.
Yeah.
But that's really all I have on that point. I guess I have one other one and then Ari, and oh no, I have a bunch of other ones. Hold on, let me go quickly. The forest, Sasha mentions how she thought leaving the forest would lead her to getting to eat a bunch of delicious food. A little mention of a forest, not really a thematic one. Obviously, the forest will be a big thing come the end of the series. Yumiya finds the thing in the forest. Sasha's dad talks about the forest all the time. We'll get more literal forest from Sasha too, because she's from sort of a forest town. But I wanted to note down that they did mention the forest kind of through Sasha here. Krista Lenz is a god. This is kind of an interesting one. Sasha, when getting food from Krista post a day-long run, in the chapter we know, the potato girl scene, she looks like a god. This happens again in the female Titan arc with Armin, Reiner, and Jean. Visually, this is similar to Eren waking up post-Boulder and seeing the wings of freedom on Levi's back. Yumiya does appear right after Sasha explains God, which might be some clever foreshadowing. Haha, Yumiya, Lamau.
Yeah. I've never noticed that.
The just on this, I can't recall because in the anime, I remember Sasha saying you're like a god, but I don't think they do anything visual. It was interesting to me, because I'm specifically talking about probably for the readers more so than you guys. Like in it's sort of drawn weirdly how it's sort of supposed to be from Sasha's perspective, seeing Krista or Historia, where there's like leaves falling and it's very like it's sort of like a gag. But then it happens when Eren wakes up after putting the boulder in the hole and he sees Levi in the wings of freedom. He sort of has the same effect. So it might just be a general motif that Isayama might use early on that we might see more in the coming arcs, but I'm not sure. Were you going to say something, Ari, or was somebody going to say something? I think I talked over them.
I agree. I'd never thought of it. It's a cool idea.
Yeah. There is sort of the Krista being a god thing is certainly referenced. I don't know if that's supposed to be a reference. I don't know, that could go into the Historia Yumiya parallel about Yumiya is the god thing or whatever. But again, this is just something to keep an eye on. And then I have one little bit at the end, which is suicidal blockhead is used, I think, for the first time in chapter 18. You'd think they'd have used it beforehand, like the flower, but they haven't. I guess this is where we bring up the flower and how we haven't seen a single bit of blood on a flower yet. Even though it's in like episode 1 and it becomes a big motif later on. But we'll talk about that separate from this. Suicidal blockhead is a big... Wait, what did you say, Mr. Ross?
I said they've been inside for a lot of it so far. Not an opportunity.
This is true. There is no flowers in Trost. I think, was there one little flower near the boulder? I'm vaguely remembering this.
In the manga?
But I could be making it up. Did I imagine this? I don't know. Probably not worth investigating. because it wasn't the flower meme, because I would have screamed if I saw it. But
Yep.
Suicidal Blockhead is a plot point in the next arc very soon in the coming chapters, where Armin yells out "Suicidal Blockhead." Bastard I like better, which I think is a dub change. Oh no, me giving the anime and dub credit. Suicidal Blockhead here is what they use in the manga. He obviously screams that, and it makes Annie stop, and it's a plot point in a coming chapter. So you'd think they would have established that beforehand, but they had to like get it in now because it has to be a plot point later. But yeah, you would have thought it was like in chapter 3 or something when we initially get like all the Jean, Eren, fighty boy stuff. But in fact, I'm pretty sure the first time it's ever said is in chapter 18. They might call him like suicidal earlier, but this is the first time the term is used. So unless anybody has anything to say about that, we'll head to Ari for his big motif thing here.
Yeah, I got nothing, so I guess. All right.
Go on.
So I got a bunch. I think it's best if I just go through them quickly. We got I don't know if we've talked about this or not, but the bird. There's a bird in chapter 1 or 2.
It's 1. It's chapter 1.
Chapter 1.
It might be
where
chapter 2 too.
As soon as like Armin, Berthold knocks down the wall, or even before then, I think it's just when they hear the lightning transformation, and they're running towards it, like Eren, Mikasa, and Armin. There's a brief flash of a bird landing on this sign, and then Eren notices it.
It's not a literal bird, right? It's like part of the sign.
Is it? Oh, I assumed it was an actual bird. I don't actually know.
There was a note on the wiki actually that like translated what the sign said, and it just said like tools or something. But the wiki pointed that out. Felt the need to point it out. I'm scrolling through now because I want to see it, but I'm pretty sure it is like a bird on a sign.
That's
because I remember thinking this could be incidental.
Like I remember it was a different.
Obviously, there are birds in the anime, and birds are important. Chat, if you remember, because fucking bird Eren at the end. And there are other birds, I'm assuming, obviously fucking Falco and shit. But birds are a symbol in Attack on Titan, and motifs. Is it? I feel like it's part of the sign. Yeah, because it's in the same position here. Or is it a little bird?
It is. I can't tell. I'm looking at it now.
I took it immediately as it's like part of the sign.
I mean, it's a pretty detailed
but maybe it's
sign.
A bird like
it's
going off kilter. Maybe it's a little bird.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think you guys are obsessing a bit right now.
I mean, it's interesting because yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm steering this shit back in the direction, just conscious of time. Otherwise, you're gonna spend an hour analyzing analyzing one panel that was drawn almost guaranteed incidentally at the time.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know about that.
All right, we got a lot of motifs, but essentially the first one is about that bird.
Keep going.
So we'll track that.
Chat,
as the story
you can tell us
on.
whether or not you think the bird is a.
Stop calling it chat. We're not live.
I'm saying chat when I'm talking to people on Twitter. I don't give a fuck.
All right. Next motif. Next motif for the headaches. So we've talked about this a lot already, so we don't really need to talk about it. But I guess the occurrences are we get it when after Hannes saves her, and then Eren and he's repeating "I'm sorry." She gets a headache there. She gets one when she's saluting Louise, which we talked about, and we get the original headache, which is when she's lying down after being kidnapped. And then also Eren gets a headache when he's thinking of like when Hannes asked him what happened to Grisha, and he gets like a headache thinking about that, I guess, and he gets the
that is true.
He gets the flash of like,
and he passes
Grisha.
out and everything.
Yep. So that's another motif, the headaches. Another one.
The Eren headache could be interesting.
Yeah, because it is related to the Titan power. Yeah, I'm not sure about it. We'll have to track it as it goes on.
It is a memory thing, like whenever you're remembering stuff, because the implication is Mikasa is remembering things when she gets the headache, I guess. So memories and headaches, we'll keep an eye on this as we move forward.
Yep. We've also got exploring the outside world, which we've covered a few times. So like Eren or Armin declaring it to Eren and Eren declaring it to Armin, etc. Like we get a few occurrences of that in these first 18 volumes. And obviously we get that back at the end, 139. We get Eren's mantra or whatever, of if you don't fight, we can't win, so fight. Like that whole speech. We get that a few times. So we get it initially when we're getting the Mikasa's kidnapping scene. He says it there for the first time. And then Mikasa repeats it when she learns that Eren's dead. And when in that same scene where she's declaring that she's stronger than everyone, she kind of repeats that in a way, Eren's mantra. And then when Eren is about to plug the hole in Trost, he somewhat repeats it by kind of just saying fight, fight. Like it's kind of like similar to that motif or to that mantra in a way. So I'd probably loop that in as well. But yep, that's another motif. We have Jean sitting with his hands on it, or his hand on his head. I think that's what it was in this scene, which kind of like, I'm not sure. The only other time that stands out to me is when they're having that discussion around the campfire in the final arc, like in that quote unquote episode of the anime.
Yeah.
That could be a motif going forward, I imagine.
I don't remember it too much, but maybe we'll keep an eye.
Yep. We've got Armin having a plan, which obviously that becomes the big thing. So far he's thought up of 3 plans. The first was using the attack titan to clear the titans at the gas supply place, on the path there, I guess. And then the second one was actually the lift, which they used to blind the 3 titans and then kill them. That was his idea.
Yeah.
And we also get the idea of carrying the boulder in Trost was again Armin's idea. So 3 very important ideas already in the first 18 chapters. So then we've also got Eren's declaration of I'm going to destroy those animals. So we get it as, I think it was when Carla dies. I think that's the first time we get it.
He says it when looking at Reiner after Reiner's broken through the gate. Obviously, he doesn't know it's Reiner then.
That's right. Yep. So that's the first occurrence of it.
And that's like the really visceral, that statement, like that exact line.
Yep.
I think the other ones that you've got there, he kind of, it's varied slightly, but the actual exact line of I'm going to destroy them, every last one of those animals that's on this earth, that line appears absolutely verbatim, like 100 odd chapters later.
In the when it gets to Mali, is that what you're referring to?
When Eren's destroying, when the rumbling reaches Marley.
Yep.
So in whatever chapter Dawn of Humanity is, I can't remember the numbers, but I remember the chapter name. The very end is the exact same dialogue.
Yeah, which is
like unchanged from chapter 2. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we see that for the first time.
That was my only point that I had in motifs, because I was bad at the homework for this one.
No. You were the only one who read all the chapters in time. But okay, we'll continue on.
This is true.
What were we up to? Yeah, so okay, we got in 2 other ones which are somewhat related. When Eren first transforms, he has that somewhat along the lines of saying he'll destroy them. And the other one I've got is when Eren is explaining, when all the scouts are kind of having their first meetings and stuff during training, when he's talking to Reiner and Bertold, he says, I'm plenty terrified of them, but what's stronger than that is my need to kill them, every last one of them. So kind of related in a way. The second last motif here is Armin's memory of being bullied, and then Mikasa and Eren saving him. So that happens a few times. Maybe it only happens once, honestly. I think it will keep coming up, though. At least him thinking about it.
It happens, and then we get the memory of it one time. So
yeah, I guess
that's
true.
2.
Something of a motif. We get sacrificing people for Eren's sake. So getting the soldiers to die for him in Trost, that's the first time it's happened, and it will obviously continue to happen, and then eventually he'll use it against them in a way.
It's a big point in the female Titan arc, but yeah.
Yeah. And the final motif is I was born into this world, which is, he says it during his
Whatever
family
that
dream.
means.
Yeah, so we got to figure out what that means over the course of this series of rereads, but yeah. He said it for the first time, he says it when he's having his dream in Trost, and Armin's trying to wake him up.
Yeah.
And that's all of my motifs.
We
keep tracking.
Yeah, we talked about that one. But yes. Motifs, they're good. Ari's on top of them, it seems. And now we've got 2 Mr. R ones here.
Well, the first one we've kind of already covered, the I'll destroy them. We already covered that in Ari's one, so that one's kind of done. 128 chapters later is the payoff to the original statement.
Crazy.
So the other one I've got is the cruel world. This world is cruel line, which is used several times throughout. The first one, Mikasa's awakening. And again, we get the going back to that fantastic imagery. There's an anime only one, which is quite deep, which is decent. not to pick up the anime too much, but Eren has like performance anxiety in the anime before his fight with Annie and can't transform initially. And he like it takes like the entire tunnel collapsing on him, impaling him and his friends.
He's got the impaling thing.
Yeah,
that doesn't
like,
happen at all in the manga.
No, like Eren just Mikasa and Armin give him a pep talk and he transforms. But yeah, in the anime, he's really suffering. Which
well,
I think
importantly,
is kind of
their pep talk doesn't work. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think Isayama, we know that Isayama asked him to put the laugh back in for Annie. So I wonder if he had more of an influence on some of the other stuff there, like maybe have Eren more conflicted over fighting Annie, because we do know that he is conflicted quite heavily about fighting her, because it's Annie, because he knows her.
Though?
Well, maybe that's the thing. Maybe we'll find out, I guess.
Yeah,
but anyway,
I did
the point
reread
is,
those chapters a little bit for something, and I remember being like. Yeah, we'll talk about this when next time.
But yeah, it's a routine, and we'll see it again. I mean, there are probably other examples, but the next one I could think of straight away was Erwin's speech in Perfect Game.
Yes. I think it's a lot of the time connected to Mikasa more specifically, I think, but it's definitely used in other things. And we'll see.
Well, I mean, that's what we'll find out, because those are the three examples that came to my head. Like, I only listed those three because those were the only ones I could remember off the top of my head, and I want to, with the motifs, I want to see them as we go, as we sort of do this reread. I want to find them as we go.
Yep.
But yes, the world is cruel is a big one. That's all of our motifs. Now we've got, what do we have? Anime comparisons and miscellaneous. I think we should probably do miscellaneous last before we do... I think we should do, we'll do this one first. We'll do anime comparisons. Let's see how many of these we've already gone over. My first one is a general point about structural differences between the anime and manga and where the training arc is positioned. I feel like we've talked this one.
I'm almost certain we've talked about that one,
I think we've talked about it 3 times in different recordings.
Yeah. I have one more. Annie doesn't specifically apologize to Marco in the manga. Now, Mr. I, you were saying that might not even be a thing in the anime. Just a random girl on the ground. That might be Mia. Is that her name?
No, it's not Mina either. You keep getting it wrong. Mia is Gabby's fake name. It's Mina.
Did we talk about this? Yes. I feel like we might have talked about this already, because I remember...
It would make sense if it was Mina, because Mina was... we saw Mina being eaten head first, and that girl's missing like most of her head.
I remember.
But apparently some supplementary material. I don't know if it's Goodbye Wall Cena, the Lost Girls... The Lost Girls the volume focused on Annie, where just for some reason the mangaka, because it wasn't Isayama, decided to give Annie a shower scene for no real reason other than, I guess,
we got to sell this fucking OVA somehow.
Yeah, we got to sell this OVA somehow.
I haven't seen that OVA.
I think apparently the girl is named as Ruth D. Klein. Apparently.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that's meant to be a play on Decline.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's who the corpse is, but I think, I can't remember exactly how it plays out. It's been a while since I read that, but that's apparently who that corpse is that Annie apologizes to in both the anime and the manga.
Believe it or not, I actually have the manga for both Lost Girls and the visual novel, and I read the visual novel for Lost Girls, because that is how it originally existed, I'm pretty sure. I don't think I actually read the manga, and I still have, to this day, have not seen the Mikasa episode, or the Mikasa, and I have the light novel as well for that one, or the manga version, which I also have. Just a little meme detail about my collection, even though I only have 3 actual Attack on Titan volumes. 12, 13, and 14, which I can read coming up soon. But those are all mine for my anime comparison things. Ari, I guess we'll go through yours, because you only got one.
Yeah, I got one, which is that, can we all agree that the uncensored version in the manga is better than what we see in the anime, which is censored?
Yes, there's a lot of violence here.
Yeah, and it's in my opinion, way better. And that's my whole point.
Fucking sick, bro.
Yeah. Like things that jump to mind, even just like the little ones, like there's like Mina, just to bring her up again, her death in the manga, which is still not really shown fully in either, is still more brutal. Like I think in the manga, it's a side-on view of her head like halfway inside the what's it called, the staring titan, I think they called it, or the leering titan's mouth.
Wasn't it the original Kawaii Titan? Wasn't that the meme in 2013?
Oh, maybe.
Because it peeks around the corner. Yeah.
Maybe it's the peeking titan, actually. Yeah, whatever it is. So yeah, in like the anime, it's like this sort of really horrifying side-on view of her basically halfway in its mouth. But in the anime, it's kind of like it's not at that stage yet. It's kind of like a back shot of Mina sort of being taken towards it.
A lot
Also,
of the
speaking of
Titan on
Ruth Klein, I
Titan
think
violence was.
in the anime you don't
Go ahead.
see that Ruth's missing most of her face. I think it's like angled differently, so you don't see that. But in the manga,
Yeah.
no fucks given, just missing face. It's horrid.
Violence is good, true. But now we've got a few Mr. R points here.
Oh, these are Mr. R points, aren't they?
Uh-huh.
Did we talk about this one already? Like the deaths of Thomas, Mina, and anyone being more impactful in the anime than the manga because of how they ordered things. I feel like we must have.
Yes, I feel like we did talk about this. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, in the anime it means more, in the manga it doesn't. But the manga makes Marco's death more impactful, so it's overall better for structure.
Yep, agreed.
This is one actually. In the anime, there's a scene where Jean is luring a Titan and his gear breaks, so Mark helps to start so he can escape. Was that in the manga at all? I feel like I haven't seen it at all.
No, it's not. It's because that happens in Trust, because we don't see them doing anything in Trust, because that's also I feel like we already talked about this too, because I talked about the Annie moment where she like jumps down to save Jean and jumps on the Titan's like jaw. It's really cool action Annie scene, but yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not in the manga at all, because we don't follow them at all in the Trust battle.
Yeah. I'm loath to bring up the fucking Sasha farting scene, but I think it has to be, because I remember in the anime when I saw it was this bizarre amount of levity compared to, like, if you think of the ordering again of the anime, that would have been what, episode 3, episode 4,
Yeah,
perhaps?
something like that, maybe. 4.
And yeah, it just sort of, yeah, no, in the anime there was like a bit about it, because like all the characters are clearly trying their best to hold in laughter, like Reiner, Connie, Mina. You get a back shot of Annie, so you don't know if she is. It'd be great if she was, if even she was trying to hold in. It was good. I thought it was quite funny.
Yeah,
and again, I think like part of it is because Instructor Shadis in both the sub and dub has a really good voice actor.
You know what? I'm gonna say it. Fart jokes never funny, and I hate them every time. That's not true. Naruto has a good fart joke that ends a fight. Have
you considered going and working for cinema sins?
Yes, I've applied many times. You know what I saw? You know how every
normally
thumbnail
I don't
is
like
on
it.
CinemaSins? Hold on, this is a terrible tangent. It'll take 2 seconds. I saw recently a thumbnail of a video that was defending CinemaSins. That was like, CinemaSins is not that bad, actually. I didn't watch the video. Maybe somebody in chat has seen it, but I don't know why I brought that up and why I interrupted you to bring that up. Please continue.
Yeah. Anyway, normally fart jokes, you're right, aren't very good. There are exactly 2 fart jokes that I have sort of actively laughed at, I feel like, and one of them is that, and the other one is Breaking Bad, when a character deliberately shits himself.
Oh,
it's
crazy.
Watch Breaking Bad. It's good.
Well,
yes. And
that's not the only selling point of Breaking Bad. It's just it's a very funny scene. Anyway, we'll move swiftly on from there. This I haven't spoken at length in a while, and I don't want it to be the main focus of it to be this. Carla's death is better in the anime for the most part.
Yeah.
Or the lead up to Carla's death
was a negative not
I could tell.
Like
I could
Ari
tell.
here, trying to my away.
So the reason I think that is, or maybe not better, but there's a more heartbreaking element to it. The 2 key things for me are the way they frame Carla saying "don't go." It's a very minor scene, a very minor little panel in the manga, and I don't think it has quite the same impact as the heartbreaking sort of sobbing "don't go" that she says in the anime. And that really fucking hits, because again, it just shows that she is human. She isn't this, it isn't this sort of stoic, she's just, she's able to just deal with the situation. There is that humanity to it, and it's heartbreaking. And then the big meme of Eren shouting Yamaro in the anime is so fucking visceral and real and pained. It's so good, and that it just isn't conveyed quite as well in the early chapters of the manga. And
I feel,
I'm just gonna be honest, I don't think it's necessary. I don't. And maybe it's just again because of the anime's just got put everything into that, because it's the climax of the first episode. It's got to be that big dramatic moment. The only thing I don't like about Carla's death is in the anime they have the Titan fucking snap her back or something, which Titans don't do, which is kind of stupid. And I guess that might be a censorship thing, because in the manga it's fucking grim because it just bites into her and her legs are sticking out its teeth and everything.
I feel like we might have already talked about this. It might have been in a lost recording session. But I feel like the only part about the anime that I like more is one of the ones that you didn't bring up, which is all the blood and the blood raining down. And the bite and the chomp and the sound effect that goes with that is really good. In the manga, it's more like he bites the Smiling Titan bites into Carla kind of weird, and that does make it a little bit more disturbing, where her leg is kind of caught in it and the slipper is there and things like that. But yeah, I feel like I had a point before that, but I lost it. But yeah, I like the blood stuff in the anime. Oh, I was gonna say that I don't think it's for censorship because I feel like it is more grim in the anime.
Yeah,
just
it was a
like,
weird
the blood
decision
and stuff.
because the manga as well.
I think it might be the
well,
opposite of censorship to be like needlessly violent with the snapping,
but they don't show it snap because it then cuts to Eren's face right as it's about to happen. It's just a bit of a weird decision because in the manga that scene is replaced, or that scene is that in the manga where it squeezes, it's clearly squeezing her too hard because she's like puking up blood when that happens.
Yeah.
I saw as well in the anime, lots of people interpret the fact that she's kicking whilst it's picking her up as the fact that she lied about her legs being broken to make Eren and Mikasa try and get them to run away. I'm not sure about that personally. I feel like her legs
just
were
be them
crushed.
dangling or whatever.
Yeah,
I remember in the anime she does like punch down on the hand with her arms.
Yeah, that happens in the manga as well.
That motion makes her legs move.
Do you guys have any? Because I have no idea what causes censorship. Like I know they were able to show Eren's decapitated head, but I don't understand what let them show that in the anime, for instance, whereas they can't show some other like much less gruesome stuff. You know,
like, it might
it's
be
really
like
weird. Ratings boards are so fucking weird in so many everywhere.
I hear a lot of shows, and I hear this on wrestling stories all the time because that's all I do with my time is listen to shoot interviews about wrestling. But they're talking about like coming back and forth with like the network and what they want to show. Usually it is like you have to fight for something, and like if you can only fight for one thing, it was probably like, oh, let us do the decapitation, and we all like let all these other things go. So
I guess
like I've heard stories as well of like films where they deliberately put in stuff that they don't intend to be in the final film that's way more violent.
Yeah, so they can. It's like
so they can negotiate.
Negotiation.
We'll cut this stuff then.
That's great.
You know, this stuff's really, if you think this stuff's too bad, we'll cut that, but you can let us keep this in. And like, for example, there's this weird thing where I think every 12 rated film now, 12A rated film, you're allowed to say the word fuck once now. It's something weird like that. You get one F-bomb in your 12 rated
Wolverine says
now.
it in the one X-Men movie. That's the one I remember from even though that's not the rating system we use in Australia. So whatever you just said, 12 or something, Mr. R, we don't know what that is. But yeah,
well, I get
we actually do because we have to fucking figure it out for these.
Well, sorry, it's 12A, it's 12A, which was a rating system invented so kids could go see the Spider-Man film when it came out. Like that's genuinely what happened in the UK. They changed the rating. They changed the rating system so that kids could see Spider-Man. Because I was one of those kids.
Awesome.
Well, I was 1 year old when Spider-Man 1 came out. Have a think about
that. Don't fucking say that.
I remember watching in the cinema. Oh man, so good.
I was concerned because I was 10. I was too young to see it. So when they said it was when they announced the 12A rating, I was like, yes, let's do this.
It's funny because Spider-Man 3, I remember seeing that. I didn't see Spider-Man 3 in the theater, but I remember going to the theater probably to see like some kiddie animated feature. And I remember seeing that like in the line to get the tickets, I remember seeing the Spider-Man logo. The Spider-Man 3 text, actually, and the text, that memories, and see it in my brain of being like 6 years old when you can't remember, you can't even talk properly. And that was Spider-Man 3, not Spider-Man 1 when I was 1 year old. You're both old. I think we're done. Oh no, you've got one more here.
I've got one more point. Sorry, let's get back to an actual Attack on Titan. The Rhino breaking down the gate scene is fucking phenomenal in the anime. Because in the manga, you get
definitely.
In the manga, you just get like, you hear like background shouting of a Titan's charging the gate, and then Rhino just breaks through it in one go, and then you get like a couple of shots of him, a couple of background shots of him. But the whole sort of extended sequence where he steps out, the music, you see the cannons having absolutely no effect, which they then double down on by having a cannon hit a normal Titan and fucking body it as he's charging past. And just like when he does that first run, and all the windows and like roofing around him just shatters from the sudden force of his acceleration. Which we also see in the anime when Eren's charging towards Annie in Stoas as well.
Yeah, he's also on fire, but that's wacky too.
It's just a very good scene.
Yep.
Yes.
Anime good.
Anime bad. But I think that's all for anime comparisons, right?
I think so, yeah. Unless you guys have anything.
No.
No, I'm pretty sure that's it. So we'll go to miscellaneous really quick because we're nearly done, believe it or not. Pixar seems to have not let the brass of the garrison know that in fact. Oh, so this is just a point that he announces that Eren is sort of like, because this is post-Titan stuff. So he's like, how to explain Eren to all the troops. He says like he's a product of Titan science, which is something we'll say a million times it seems. Maybe we should have had this in the motif section. Ackerman stuff is Titan science, and a bunch of other things will be Titan science moving forward. I wonder if all of those ones are fake because this one was fake. No need to talk about that now. But yes, Rico seems to have not been let in on the fact that this was a lie, because later when Eren, the mission seems to be failing and Eren like knocks himself out trying to hit Mikasa on his face. Real good move there. She's like, I knew there was no secret weapon or whatever, and then she sends off the failure signal. I just thought that was interesting that Rico wasn't let in when she's going on the mission with Eren and risking her life. She wasn't let in on that fact. That was just a little point. Anything to say about that one, or should I keep going?
No, I like
it. It is definitely interesting. I feel, again, maybe it's an anime comparison because, like, obviously Eren and Pixis have a lot longer discussion in the anime as well, don't they? And I guess maybe that gives Pixis time, because Pixis gives him the booze and stuff. That doesn't happen in the manga, does it?
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess maybe Pixis was using that time to formulate a lie that he could convincingly give.
Maybe. My second point here is that I like the ways in which the Garrison elite are shown to be entirely incompetent in fighting the Titans' multiple cuts on the back from when they're missing. This was just, again, another tiny little detail, hence why it's miscellaneous. There were, like, in the shots where they were struggling to kill the Titans around the same period, there were, like, multiple cuts on the backs of Titans of, like, failed attempts to hit the nape, all up on the, like, upper back, and some would go across the neck but wouldn't exactly hit the nape. I thought that was a great little detail that I don't think is used very much in the manga generally, and it's never used in the anime, I think. Unless, again, maybe I'm forgetting something. You can always correct me. But I thought that was a neat little detail of, like, if you miss hitting the nape, that's what it would look like. I've never thought about that or remembered seeing that, so that was cool. The next one is the hole in the wall is too short in the manga for some of the bigger Titans to get through it. So they have to crawl through. That's a cute little detail. Bertolt's foot is shaped in a way where, like, the whole thing wouldn't be like knocked in. And I thought this was a neat little attention to detail that when they show, like, oh no, more Titans are coming through the wall before Eren actually plugs it, it's a cute moment where you see some, like, 15-meter classes having to, like, crawl through it. It also makes them look a little bit more freaky, and they're so desperate to get in to eat people and to get closer to the people that they'll fucking crawl through shit. I have one last point here. Neat little detail at the end of chapter 14 where they show the other side of the boulder being placed and how the scouts would have had to come back. They have to leave their horses on the other side and scale up the wall. Levi made it first, but then a bunch land on Eren's vaporizing carcass. This was another, again, cute little detail. We see a bunch of them using their maneuver gear to get over the wall because they can't come back through because it's a fucking boulder in the way. But they get there right as the boulder's going in. And, like, their horses are all left on the other side and the Titans aren't paying attention to them. All really cool little details that I appreciated, all from about the same 2 chapters or so. But anything to say about that, or should we move into Ari's miscellaneous points here?
I got nothing.
Oh my god,
yeah.
There was a little bit of pause. I thought my fucking everything had fucked up again and I was talking to no one.
No, we're good.
Never mind. Okay, Ari.
All right.
It's up to you, my friend.
So I got a few points here. So the first one is that I like how in chapter 1, or even just by the end of chapter 1, there's so much world building that's already established. So we've learned about the walls, the gates to the walls, the government, the garrison, the survey corps. We learned about Grisha a bit. We learned about the 100-year establishment of the walls and a bunch of other stuff. I don't know. It's really great. All in one chapter.
It is
or
cool.
like half an episode, I guess.
Yes.
A lot of great stuff. Now, skipping forward to Trust, I like the spike net thing they used to kind of temporarily plug the hole.
Yeah.
It's just a cool thing. I'd never thought of. I don't remember that. I'm sure it probably is in the anime. I don't remember that at all in the anime.
I think it is. I think I remember it in the anime.
I think there was a little moat in the anime as well. Like a little moat that they dug around it.
Huh.
There was.
There Oh, gotta rewatch the
That
anime
is a neat
now.
detail. That wasn't in the manga, I don't think.
Fantastic.
I
The
did say
anime,
we
very
could
good.
have rewatched the anime as we went, but
Imagine
we
how
all
long
agreed
that
that
would
that was a
take.
little bit too much.
Well, you
Yeah.
guys didn't even read the manga, so
Hey, we
True.
got there eventually, right?
Ari's got
I
more
got
points here.
two more. So we got the first two volume covers are Mikasa focused. She's the center of the first two, which is really interesting. Oh no, sorry, not the first two.
Well, 2 and 4.
Two and four.
Volumes 2 and 4. Which is weird. Like I don't think she's like the main character or anything in them. It's an interesting choice to have her there.
Well, in 2, it's kind of a fake out, right? Because you think you go into that book
That's a good
thinking
point,
Eren
actually.
could be dead.
yeah, she is the
But
focus
4,
of two.
Eren's in the foreground of 4. Mikasa's kind of in the main position, I guess, but Eren's right there. It's kind of a group shot.
There's no
It
Armin
makes
in
sense.
4 as well, which is interesting. Interesting decision.
Yeah. I wonder who
Have we read
does
4
these.
yet? We did,
Yeah,
right?
we've read
We did read 4, yes. 4 is the training arc. 4 is the end of Trost and all of the training arc.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
all right,
Volume
my
covers.
final point here is about Eren, the whole scene with Eren balancing or failing to balance and then successfully balancing with his equipment. I thought it was a very interesting choice that he didn't have to make. That he made Eren fail at the ODM. Like it's this whole scene or this whole like subplot about Eren failing is not necessary. Like you could have just left that out entirely of the story and it wouldn't really affect much. But it's really cool to see how when we see Eren fail, it's our first time realizing that we see that he's not as good as we think he is, and it's the first time he's realizing that he might not be as good as he thinks he is either. And
Yeah.
I like it. Like it's a very unnecessary thing that it is in the story that's really cool.
Now you could make the argument if you were the cynical type that it makes no sense to show that background because we know that he passes and comes in the top 5. I think it adds to his character personally, but if you wanted to be a certain type, this is just to go into the one little addendum I added
Like
where
the people that are against flash forwards, goddamn.
yes, the only thing that we know at the point where Eren before that is that he was second in the class for hand to hand, technically third, but on paper he was second and 5th overall.
But that might be technical too, because we don't know where Ymir would have actually placed. But
that is a fair point. I feel like it could make for interesting content to like see where you'd rank how the top 10s would be different if everyone had given 100%. Because Annie didn't give a fuck, for example.
And she got 4th. She's so cool. She would have been number 1. Fuck Mikasa. She beat her up. Don't let Isayama tell you that they broke up the fight.
Right.
And Mr. R, you got one other point here, right? The decision to include.
So there's a thing I noticed where Isayama does put the year in each time he changes when things happen, which is very important early on for like the fact that we are going to be jumping about. But it is interesting that he doesn't do that, especially as we'll approach the Marley arc and the War for Parody, because we get multiple flashbacks throughout those to different years each time. Now we know that those flashbacks take place chronologically from each other.
I never realized it. I remember being on stream one time and somebody was like, well, obviously all the flashbacks happen in chronological order. It blew my fucking mind. I was confused. So yes, leaning into your point here. There's some dumb readers might not figure it out, but yeah.
So having a time thing, and the fact that I think there's 3 flashbacks, one for 3, maybe 4 flashbacks, one for each year that's passed between the end of Shiganshina and the current day. I think that could be really interesting because the first flashback is the first scout ship, which will have happened as soon as Reiner and Zeke got back. Then there's the Azumabito arriving, which would have happened about a year later because they had to build a port to allow them to arrive. I can't remember what the one after that is off the top of my head, if there is one. And then the final one is when they go to Marley, which happens like 9 months before the events of the Marley arc.
I can't do this timeline shit right now. My brain is already sore. But yeah.
But yeah, it's just interesting that he does that he stopped including the year. I would have thought that would have been a perfectly fine thing to continue to include because
I like it.
Yeah, maybe. Now we'll go to points of confusion / things we didn't clarify. We probably have talked about a lot of these as we've gone. We talked about the first one here Ari has is about the meaning behind the symbols of the garrison and military police.
Indeed.
Which I don't really have an explanation for, but
so what are they? They're
cool
a
rose
unicorn...
and cool horse.
Wait, horse?
Unicorn
unicorn.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. Yeah, confused. Maybe it'll be explained.
They're the very best.
But I doubt it.
The top 10.
Perhaps.
And unicorns are the best as horses or something. I don't know. The rose, I have no idea. Wall rose, the roses, I don't know.
Yeah, that could be it. Some religious.
Flower
What are
motif.
abnormals?
You like your
Oh.
flowers?
Flower motif. It's a red
there a sh-
flower.
Is there
Oh,
a shot of
man.
like a Garrison member with
The
blood all
flower
over
was
their
in there
jacket?
the whole time.
It's possible.
Maybe.
Man. Anyway, next.
The top one was Eren's dream, and it was
Oh,
basically
boy.
all of us. But we've definitely already talked about that,
Yeah.
right? We did talk about that, or was that just in the first one? We haven't talked about that yet. I feel like we have to have talked about.
I feel
that.
like we have brought it up.
I mean, the gist
Yeah.
of it is
What are abnormals,
something's
isn't it?
happening. Yeah, let's skip to the next.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what are abnormal titans? Like, we get references to them, and
I
what are
still
they?
don't know. They're just wacky. The serum didn't work properly. I know the explanation back in 2013 when people thought this was hilarious was that they were R-word titans.
Oh,
And
no.
R-word people get transformed into
Oh.
R-word titans, Lamau. That was the joke back in the
The
day.
theory I was
How we've
thinking
changed.
of was
Wow, I'm glad I was not in the fan base then. Jesus
times
Christ.
have changed. Yes, I was thinking maybe it's when Titans are being controlled by Eren in the future, like to get things to turn out the way he wants. Maybe like that could be a thing.
He also, not only did he make the Titan eat Carla, he made the Titan eat, what's his name? Thomas. And then
Thomas.
that makes him freak out.
But how would that
Honestly,
explain
that
the
backs
abnormal
up
that
your
speaks
point.
to Ilsa?
I don't know.
Like, what benefit does that bring?
That's a whole
I have
different.
no
I don't know.
idea.
We'll have to see when we get there. I have no idea.
Which we will be getting there very soon. That's our very next chapter. But then I have one about that one Ymir Connie Historia
boy.
panel that I posted in the Discord that everybody maliciously ignored. Seriously, what the fuck is going on there? I don't have the panel offhand, but there is one. It's when the bomb that when Eren's getting bombed and he stops it with his fucking hand as he transforms into a Titan. At one of those points, we cut back to the other characters, and there's like this scene with Ymir, Connie, and Historia where I can't figure out what the fuck they're talking about. We're trying to rush through some things, so we can't really talk about that right now.
I mean,
But
I also
it
don't know what's
was
going on.
fucking confusing.
Let me just add that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when I read it, I was also confused.
What the fuck is going on there? It might be a translation error or something. Ari, yours is next. Why was Eren so shaken when he
So
first
I think-
sees the Ackman death?
Yeah, so when in that scene with Mikasa's flashback, when Eren first sees the dead parents, he has this shocked face. Well, not shocked. He just has this like really, I don't know. How would you even describe this? Dark, like in a daze kind of,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, it's like he's seeing something that's
It's
really
the title
shaking him,
page for that
essentially.
chapter.
It is. It's like in
is.
that crazy, like more detailed art style.
It's also like a sullen face of like.
So that's the thing. That's exactly what
Shocked a
I'm
little
wondering.
bit?
What is it? Like it's a very ambiguous face, in my opinion, for a scene that is starting off
It's
a
a very
story.
Eren face to me.
I agree. Yeah.
It feels like a ride.
Yeah. So what do you guys think
It's
is
sort
going
of
on
like
here?
both. It's like both seeing it, being shocked, but also kind of internalizing it. Like the eyes tell a lot of the story, but you can also tell that there's something going on behind the eyes of sort of like he's processing it very quickly.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's a cool panel. What a face. And he's got the scarf on and everything.
Very good chapter. And related to that chapter, I guess, how did Eren find the cabin? Was that ever pointed out and I just missed it? Any ideas?
His determination to search the forest and run until he finds them.
Yep, fair enough.
I guess that's my best explanation.
Any
You
idea?
got another one?
All right. What was it? Eren's dream at the start. Okay, yeah, actually, this is interesting. This is just like a weird theory thing. So Eren has his dream at the start of Trost when he's like thinking of his family. And just like a theory to this is I wonder if he's creating a path's reality similar to what happens in 139 with Mikasa and Eren. Because, I mean, there's no evidence for this, but like if that is the case, then that it kind of links those two scenes together and we can kind of, this could somehow be related to the first scene under the tree that we still are trying to understand.
It's definitely the same thing, like thematically, because is this in the manga? But in the anime, I remember like when Eren starts giving his speech, like all the characters from the fake reality look at him, and they all like turn and start looking like, and that's what the characters do at the very end when like Armin asks all the old shifters, they don't say anything, remember? And I don't think any of the other characters say anything in this
Yeah.
flashback in Trost. So it's definitely similar in a lot of like contextual ways. If not literally like Eren creating the dream thing. But yeah, it is interesting how he does these sort of it's sort of like a dream sequence, I guess, which is usually good to like investigate a character's mind and things like that, which is also done here. But yes, on the more literal side, that is actually interesting. I hadn't thought about that until now. Did you have more to say about that?
No, that's it. Now your point.
Do your one, and then I'll do my.
All right, I got my
one.
final miscellaneous thing, or questions actually. So in chapter 17, there's a lot of discussion about what it means to be a soldier, and I don't really know what the conclusion to all that is. I think we talked about this a little bit already.
We already talked about this, yeah.
So it's,
with the Reiner saying what is a good and
Yeah,
soldier and responsibility and stuff like that.
yeah, I think we're done with this. So your last point.
And then my one was, why does Bertolt say they rode horses to Wall Cena? Wouldn't it be Wall Rose? Is the fact that he's mistaken a tease that he's not from around here, though he's been on Paradis for 2 years at this point. I think this is in the scene on the beds where they're talking about their backstories, and I think Bertolt says... he says, like, oh, the Titans, I opened the window, the Titan was there, then we jumped on the horses and we rode to Wall Cena, even though it should be Wall Rose. So I don't know if it is a fuck-up on the translation side, if it was the original fuck-up on Isayama's point, or if it is supposed to be a hint that Bertolt fucked up which wall it was. Though there isn't really any indication of, like, them realizing that he fucked up. Did either of you notice this? Or maybe in Mr. R's book it's different.
I'm sure I can tell you right now. Actually, let me just grab it.
I mean, for me, I don't even know what the three walls are, like what their order is or anything. So just slip past me. Like, what even is the
Maria,
outermost
Rose,
for?
and Cena.
No, I know the names. I just don't know the order. Like
Maria, then Rose, then Cena. What do you
Wow.
think? I'm saying them in any order over here?
I guess, yeah.
Well, it's Sheena, but yes. So Bertolt does say Sheena in this. Bertolt does say Sheena, but then shortly after, Reiner then goes, geez, what did you have to talk about that for? And literally, like, the next panel.
Do you think they maybe actually went to Wall Cena?
I mean, they were trying to infiltrate, so...
Yeah, maybe. Interesting. Maybe we are right there. Well, we've only got a few things left to talk about here. We're nearing the end, finally, fellas. The last two... just the last two things we got to go over. Volume bonuses and things we didn't like. So let's get negative at the end here. Isn't that a good lasting impression?
We need to
I had
this format.
I had retcons, but Mr. R, I think, no, I think it was RE that crossed out my retcon thing. Because my point isn't a complaint at anything, because I don't have complaints. It's a 10 out of 10. But mine was supposed to be a retcon, so my only one here is that Armin implies that his parents died in the reconnaissance mission, not his grandfather like in the anime. The only reference to his grandfather here is that he gave him his name. I can't remember if he calls the books he has his grandfather's books. I think he does. This might be a retcon because people say the couple in the hot air balloon that were killed by the military police were his parents, which could just be that that's bullshit and this isn't a retcon at all. But Armin's grandfather is a character in the anime. Like, he talks to him and stuff. He's on screen. And he puts the hat on Armin as he leaves to go and die in the reconnaissance mission.
Man,
were you going to say something, Ari?
No, I don't remember. Is he like, he's an animated character, like, on the screen?
Yeah.
Yes, he's on the boat.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he says something to Armin about, he can see something that, he can see that Mikasa and Eren have had something terrible happen to them.
Who knows what they just saw, he says. And it's all ominous in the dub. It's cool. Who knows what they just saw? And it's big dramatic, and Armin turns and goes, they probably did just see Carla get eaten. How shameful.
Wow. All right.
Or what a shame. Not really shameful. Yes, but Armin's grandfather doesn't seem to be a character in the manga. This is actually something I noticed a long time ago, I think in that reread I tried to do. I feel like we talked about it on stream a little bit or something to the 10 people that might have been watching that. But this is a point I brought up before. But yes, it'll be interesting because the military police thing, do you guys remember what I'm talking about with the military police thing later?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the exact
It's
same
never
thing
like
reading through.
verbally. Yeah, it's never like verbally said.
Well,
Maybe
didn't
it's an
people think that
anime
it was
thing.
Armin's parents because he has the book on they gave him a book on the outside world, and then they tried to escape to the outside world.
Yeah, but I can't remember if that was anime stuff or if that was manga stuff too.
I guess we'll find out in a few
Don't
months' time.
spoil us in the comment section. We'll catch up. But that's all I got. So Ari, you got 3 here. A complaining
got
son of a
some
bitch you are.
terrible things that have
Disgusting.
happened. So to start off, we have the I guess the panel where I don't know who's saying this actually. It's probably Eren, right? Like it's at the end of
It's
his
his internal monologue.
Yeah.
Is it? I think it's when he's first transforming in Trust. Is that right? No,
Yeah,
or is
yeah.
it right at the
Going
end?
to the-
Yeah. So I think it's
Going towards the boulder.
yeah, it's his first transformation, and he yells out, "This is going to be an attack on the Titans," which is obviously a reference to the name of the show in the manga, which is kind of
Show in
cringe to me.
English.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess that is an issue, which is it
It's
is a
English
translation.
exclusive.
Yeah, so
Yeah. 'Cause you have the
yeah,
little
I don't
thing.
know.
Yeah, read that. You did because
So
you know some Japanese or something, and you
I know
wrote out
very
what it
basic
actually is.
Japanese. So okay, in the original Japanese, it says "Okina Shingeki ni Naru," which isn't like obviously it's not saying like Shingeki no Kyojin or anything, which is like the title of the show. But it's
Obviously, we have the
I don't know.
title drop later. We should point out too.
Yeah, we
Right?
do.
There's the-
So I think that's the better version of the title drop, where it's like the Attack Titan or the Shingeki no Kyojin. But I think in this translation they've translated Okina as Titan rather than like big, large, or great, which is like what that usually means. So
But
I don't know.
isn't the
like
title
it's
in Japanese "Advancing Giants"? It's not even like specifically Titans. Like that is a translation thing.
Yeah,
I saw
I think Kyojin
yeah.
is a decision was a decision they made to make it about Titans, to make it Titan.
Yeah. It might literally be because of Clash of the Titans. Because whenever somebody doesn't know Attack on Titan and they want to talk about Attack on Titan, like they've never seen it, they always say Attack of the Titans, which is a funny little thing. Or they've watched like 2 episodes. Yeah, I'm really into the Attack of the Titans. It's really cool. Potato Girl, Lamau. But yeah, that might be actually why. Because I don't think, obviously, Titan isn't a word in Japanese. But
Indeed.
yes,
An Attack on the
Elite
Titans,
RE.
bad.
He's an elite man.
Yeah.
He knows Japanese, for fuck's sake. I was going to say, I
Very
think in the
basic.
anime, Pixis says this line, because they do have a similar line, where it will be an Attack on the Titans. I can hear it in his voice and him declaring it. I'm not certain on that. I don't know if I'm remembering things entirely correctly, but I think that might be a change too. Do you have anything else on this point, Ari? Besides that it's cringe?
Not at all.
I guess it's just...
I just thought it was it's just cringe.
It really is all down to the fucking translators here, which is interesting because it is one separated from.
I mean, I think the anime still chose to not say Shingeki no Kyojin at this point, did it? Did they still say Okina Shingeki ni Naru? Because like I feel like the reaction channels didn't lose their shit at that. They were like, oh, it says Attack on the Titans, but then they kind of forgot, and it definitely wasn't as visceral, I guess, when as the reactions when Eren says it at the end of Shiganshina.
I know it's been a while since I've seen a season 1 reaction. But maybe, yes. I didn't particularly remember this moment as the Lamau title drop, so it doesn't stick out as much as the later one does. And because I guess it really isn't a title drop, at least not in the original.
I'm about to go berserk.
Yes. Puck turns around, berserk. Wacky. But Ari, you've got 2. Two more.
Okay, so another element of cringe here, at the end of this Trust arc where Eren is plugging the wall with the rock, and Armin yells out, "Go, Eren!" And I don't know, I don't like it. It's like he's like cheering on for like a sports team member or something. I don't know. I thought it was kind of cringe again. Did you guys
I
like
don't know
that?
about this one. I thought it was pretty cool. I love everything in that final moment, so...
Yeah.
What else is he
I don't
supposed
know
to
what
say?
makes it cringe. I say nothing, I guess, or be like some philosophical speech about the importance of human suffering or something. I don't know. Like
Eren's already doing a speech at that point.
yeah, that is true. I don't know. I'd leave
The,
it out for me. I mean, it's a very small thing, obviously, but I don't know. I kind of cringe reading
This is another line I can hear in the anime. I can remember like his inflection and everything from the Armin English fucking voice actor, and I even like it there, and that's in a dub. It should be terrible. It should be cringe. But Ari, I mean, Mr. R, you got to split the difference here. Cringe or not cringe?
Yeah,
it's
let
our
us
new
know.
segment.
I remember cringing when I heard that bit. So sorry, Ari.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
okay.
I'm gonna go with not cringe.
And the not cringes have it. Fantastic.
So then, my final thing I don't like is that the internal monologue bubbles, at this point in the story at least, the way they're like visualized is they've got
shaded.
a white background and then they're surrounded with like a shaded black like border. And to me that just looks weird. It kind of looks like they're shouting in a way. But like it is distinct. Like it is, you will know like when you see it, oh, this is an internal monologue bubble. But I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Like, what did you guys think?
The usual thing for thoughts is like the little bubbles beneath the big bubbles, right? That's to indicate that it's not being said out
Sure,
loud,
yeah.
but being thought. I don't know. They're kind of cool. It is definitely an early Attack on Titan thing. This is gone completely at some point. I don't know. I think it's okay. I don't mind it at all. I didn't think about it too much. But Mr. R, it looks like you are again the deciding vote here.
Once again, it's going to be doesn't bother me. I think the internal monologue style, or I never actively noticed it. Maybe if there's more of them in the next chapter, in the next chapters that we're going to read, now that you've said it, I'll notice it. But it never jumped out at me whilst I was reading it.
I did definitely notice it. But yeah, it was just like early Attack on Titan, how wacky for me. But Mr. R, you're going to finish this out on our complaining section here.
I am. Now, this one was necessary. I guess it was a necessary thing in order to make certain scenes work, but to me it sticks out like a bit of a sore thumb in terms of almost plot holing, and it's the fact that the Colossal Titan, I'm not going to count the first appearance because we didn't actually see what happened to it, and in the anime they even showed its head disappearing below the wall, so we don't...
They show that in the manga too.
Yeah, but the second appearance... when Eren goes to swipe it and it just fucking vanishes into thin air. Like, we have seen, I'm pretty sure Shiganshina showed us how long it takes for its corpse to dissolve and disintegrate away.
Yeah.
So the fact that it was able to just disappear...
It's pretty miraculous.
When somebody voluntarily leaves a Titan body, it definitely does still disintegrate because Eren's is
it
still
disintegrates,
there
but it doesn't vanish. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's the fact that it just literally just isn't there the next panel.
So at the first for the first one, there should have been a body like disintegrating.
Well, that's what I mean. Obviously, like the first one, we saw its head dipping below the wall, and then the later chapter, we saw Berhalt emerging from the disintegrating body of the Colossal Titan. But the second one, no, it's just standing there, and then it's just Eren takes a swipe, and it's gone.
Yeah, it definitely is weird. Even if you take it, he should like see like, oh, what's the little Bertolt doing down there or something. But yeah, it is a little wacky.
I wonder how long it takes. Did we ever work out how long it takes for the Titan marks on their face to disappear? Because how long did Bertolt have to go and hide to let the Colossal Titan marks vanish after kicking the wall down?
Maybe because he didn't do it for too long, it didn't take much of an effect. I have no idea.
Do they?
Well, no, because those marks come from the fusion of his face to the Titan's.
Yeah,
and he would have fused. Like that's the first part because the Titan grows out of him.
But it might be like when you hold down something on your skin, and like if you hold it down for longer, it usually takes longer to. But maybe this is just complete bullshit. Who knows? But trying to rationalize it here. But yes, it is because it doesn't. Because we see him in a scene with Jean right afterwards with no marks on his face.
Well, no, I mean, we say right after. We don't know how much time actually passes when they're all waiting to organize and stuff.
Well, I feel like the garrison shows up immediately and says, everybody get to the fucking tower to get your orders. I guess the Vanguard has been mostly wiped out by that point, so it could have been a little while. But again, the little details, who knows? But I think that's all we got to complain about. We all liked it a whole lot.
The last
thing we all liked it.
I think we all liked it a lot more than we thought we would as well.
Yeah.
Yes, it was very, very VV good. The last thing we have is volume bonuses here, because the volumes do have a lot of little things, especially now. Some of these rather, get translated into the anime sort of mid-credit things where it's like public information or whatever. I think they even have that in the manga where it says that. The manga has like a very deep breakdown of I don't know if this is in the notes of like how the 3D maneuver gear would theoretically work and how the weapons and shit. I had never really thought about it in any extreme detail, but there it was. It's one of the first volume bonuses. There's also ones about the wall and how big the walls are and things like that, and why there are little outskirt wall thingies like Shinganshina and Trust. It's a good way to do exposition, I guess, especially for the volume releases. If you were reading the chapters month to month, I guess you'd have to cry. There were none of the fictional like reality bonuses in these, were there? They were just previews.
They took a while because they started coming in to become fake previews, I think.
Yeah.
But in the earlier volumes, the previews, when there are previews, the previews are just previews. At Volume 4, literally the final page is the final page of the chapter, whilst I think Volume 1, the final page, it has like the first 4 pages of Volume 2, I think. Like, I guess it just depends on if they had like pages they needed to
fill, maybe.
Yeah, preview of Volume 2. They've got what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pages. They've got a quarter of chapter 6 or chapter 5.
I guess it would be neat if you were waiting for the next volume to come out, but yeah, like you just skim right past them. Sometimes they also had like alternative covers, which were kind of cool, but they're only sketches. Did you I got distracted there for a second. Did that not just sound like Miller for a second? Though I think Mr. R, you went but it sounded kind of like Miller.
Oh, did it? Oh, okay.
I didn't notice.
I don't know. That was wacky. It just threw me off for a second. I'm like, did he get in here? What the fuck is he doing? Invading on my Attack on Titan space.
Yeah, looking at the volumes,
have either of you?
It seems like 1 and 2 had like bonuses. Then 3 and 4, maybe they tried not having bonuses for a little bit, or 3 and 4 the chapters were longer, so they didn't have as much space in the volumes to work with.
Yeah, because one of them has 1 extra chapter than the others, right? Like 4 or something has like 5 chapters.
I will tell you right now.
Just quickly, while Mr. R checks that, have either of you ever heard the story about how I got duped by one of the fake previews when I was reading the volumes, I think from the school library?
No.
Well, there was this one time where it's like, I think this might have been one of the first volumes I'd ever read, because I didn't know there were fake previews. And I didn't see that it said fake preview in the corner or whatever, with a little asterisk. So the fake preview was like, in the next volume, Eren wakes up and learns that like, it was all fake, and Mikasa's like in a schoolgirl uniform, and she's like, Eren, wake up, we gotta go to school. And I fell for it. I legitimately was mad for like 15 minutes before I looked at it for a second time. I was like,
well,
no.
You say that you got fooled. Do you remember when the first I've just checked, book 1 has 4 chapters, all the others have 5.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
But I feel like chapter 1 or 2 is much longer than they usually are. That's a big thing in manga, where the first chapter is usually a lot longer than the others. But anyway, sorry, I digress. The thing I was going to say was, when the announcement that the bonus pages were coming for 139 and they got released, a load of the community who've clearly only ever pirated the manga month to month had no idea about the volume bonuses. So when those extra 8 chapters included the little high school scene of them coming out the cinema, they thought that was the real ending. Titan folk went up in arms because none of them had actually picked up a fucking book in real life.
Well, I can't make fun of them then, because I fell for it too back in the day. Well, I guess I fell for it the legitimate way, because I had the book.
You were reading the volume. You were reading the volumes itself. But the Titan folk was going fucking mental, and all those people having to come in and go, no, guys, that's like the meme. He always puts like a couple of meme pages at the end of like an alternate reality high school. Calm yourself.
Yeah,
and then they were
at
like,
some point they do become like serialized, where it is like this one like high school story.
Yeah,
I have a big theory about the final one, which we'll talk about eventually.
I only
almost made it into one of my videos.
Yeah, I only just read that final one like 2 weeks ago. It was like the first time I'd ever seen the one of them coming out of the cinema. But yeah. Fuck, I felt like I was going somewhere with something, but I've forgotten it entirely. So, I guess the first volume extras, it doesn't have anybody's name in the corner. But there's one where Isayama goes through the people that inspired him. And he has a bunch of different authors. Ari, you can say Japanese names. Do you want to go through the names
no.
rather than me butchering them?
I can
Go
try.
ahead, attempt it. And then say
so
what
we
they
got.
are.
Everyone's
what
gonna
you got
judge me here. We got Tsutomu. I don't even know if these are Japanese. I would assume Tsutomu Nihei, which is Blam. I also don't know any of the. Yeah, Blam. I think
I've
it's
definitely
pronounced Blam.
heard
I
of
don't know
that.
anything about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got Ryuji Minagawa, which is Project Arms, which
And I
also,
will
I
say
think
I
I've heard of
googled
it.
this
but-
one. Yeah, I think I've heard of it too. But I googled this.
Arms.
I googled this one, and like the poster had characters that looked very much like Eren and Mikasa. So plagiarism, yikes. The next one is obviously the one I want to talk about, but
Yeah. Do you want to pronounce this name?
no, I can't do it. I
Correct.
can't speak
Oh
Japanese.
god. Kentaro Miura, which is Berserk. Of course, we all know Berserk, right? One of the
Yeah,
best
we'll talk about that
stories of all
after you get
time.
through the next one.
All right. Hideki Arai, which is The World Is Mine, which I've heard of again. Have you guys seen? That's pretty
That was
popular.
one
isn't
that
it?
I've
heard of that
never
one or not.
heard of. Yeah.
Huh, interesting. The final one, Toru Mitsumine.
Is that how
which
you
is
pronounce
great
the double O in
teacher.
Japanese? You pronounce it like O.
Toru. Yeah, it's longer. It's like Toru instead of Toru.
Okay.
Yeah, and sometimes you can have TOU instead of TO, like in Romanized, but
Yeah.
that's
I was
that's
just
the
like,
final
I
one
was
for
just thinking,
great
there's no way that can be
teacher,
pronounced
Inozuka.
two. There's no way that can be pronounced Turu.
No.
Guru. But yes, the great teacher Onizuka, which is another one I've
Yeah.
heard of, but haven't seen. I haven't seen anything. But the Berserk meme is that the three things I've seen in my life: Finland Saga, Berserk, and Attack on Titan, all have a scene of a leader standing on a pile of bodies. I don't know if it originally comes from the Griffith scene in the Eclipse. We'll keep that as vague as possible because we already spoiled Mr. R and we don't want to do it any further.
You've spot. I know. I know the Griffith standing on a pile of bodies. You've brought it up so many times in previous streams.
Well, then there's a Canute one in the farmland arc in Vinland
Hey,
Saga.
whoa, I don't want any Vinland Saga spoilers, right?
It's
I mean,
all fake.
I mean-
It's all like not even real.
Hey,
but it's all
no,
the same point. And
fair enough.
Erwin does it too. They all got there because they let people die for them. How wacky. And I always wondered if this was from something like before Berserk that
It's got its own TV tropes page.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I was wondering because it isn't in Devilman, I don't think, which is my only root cause series. But yeah, just I feel like I've talked about that a bunch of times on probably chapter reviews like 2 years ago. So it turns out Isayama has actually seen Berserk, and just today, even though these notes were done like 2 weeks ago, probably more.
Yeah.
Mr. Ari was linking more interviews with Isayama talking. Once he mentioned Evangelion. Ooh, my favorite is. But he didn't really mention it at all. He was just saying that Rei Ayanami, which I didn't know was also based off a battleship like Mikasa's name is. And that Casca was Mikasa was a little bit of Casca in it. So, and he also did this interview for when the third Berserk movie was coming out, and he was like promoting it or whatever. And he talked about a bunch of like the eclipse and stuff in it. So he has indeed seen it, confirmed with written proof. But yeah, that was just cute and neat. He has indeed seen Berserk. Isn't that wacky? Haven't we all?
Yep.
Yeah, a cute point too. He also said in this same question, because there is an interviews, because they do this with manga all the time, where there's interviews at the end of volumes and things like that. And they're sometimes interesting to go through. They're usually interesting to go through. He had a bunch of other interesting ones that we will get into. But he also said here, he was like, and all the authors that write in the same magazine as me. I forget what the magazine is called, Bisetsu or whatever, which is cute. Because I'm pretty sure that magazine doesn't have many popular stuff besides Attack on Titan. So,
well, Attack on Titan's basically what saved it, wasn't it?
That's what people say. I don't know.
Wasn't Kodansha on the verge of bankruptcy before they started publishing Attack on Titan, or is that just a popular myth that goes around to sort of venerate Isayama even more?
I wouldn't have a clue.
Yep. No, I don't even know what Kodansha is. I've heard the name.
Well, they're the
It's
publishing.
on the volume spines. That's how I know it.
Yeah, they're the publishing branch. I guess I think Basetsu Shonen was theirs.
Yeah. But on the inspirations, does anybody have anything else to say, or is
No, I just thought
Is
it
that
was
about it?
cool. Especially the Berserk bit. It was pretty cool that he's read it.
yeah? If you want to understand Attack on Titan even more than doing a reread, it would probably be worthwhile to read or watch those things. But I ain't got time for that. The next one is the old talking point that's brought up constantly by the Attack on Titan fandom. That Gene is its favorite character because he says what he's thinking, even if sometimes whoa, this is easy to say. Even
You
if
got
it's
this.
something you normally wouldn't be able to say. And you wanted me to read Japanese fucking names. You wouldn't be. Gene speaks his mind, so he likes him.
Yes.
Which is interesting because in the other interview that Ari linked today, he was talking about how Isan was basically calling himself a coward and that he runs away from things. And a big plot point is Marco says that Gene would be a good leader because he's actually afraid of things. So I don't know if that also factors into it.
I thought that was
But,
different.
that
I thought when Isayama comes up card, I thought he referred to he was saying that Jean was his favorite, but the character who he thinks is most like him is Daz.
He might say that. That rings a bell in my brain, but I can't remember the exact quote.
Look at Daz's AOT wiki page. It'll probably be in his trivia.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It would
that
be.
might be in line with the interview thing we read today. But you guys like this Gene fella. Do you have anything to say about this? Do you feel validation that Isayama likes him too?
Yeah, based.
Yep.
Isayama's like two favorite stated characters are Jean and another character that we'll come to when that changes. I don't actually know if it gets brought up again, but by the end of it, Isayama's favorite is Reiner, who is the best character.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's pretty cringe, but he likes Aryan-looking fellows. Yikes, problematic. How far ahead do you have a time? Ari, maybe you should read these instead of me fumbling over.
Okay, another question in the interview. How far ahead do you have Attack on Titan plotted out? And his answer was, in broad strokes, pretty well thought out, way down the line. And he said that he knows. So this was published in volume 1, I think. This interview.
Yeah, the interview was.
Yeah. So then he also said he knows that in around volume X, so like some volume in the future, that he knows that some truth will be revealed. And he says that he doesn't flesh out his ideas fully until he's actually working on them. So those were his three answers.
He doesn't plan everything out. What a lie.
he's a gardener, not a planner. Is that the term?
Yeah,
that George R. R. Martin uses.
The George R. R. Martin myth. There's never been a planner in the history of narratives, I don't think. Has any author ever came out and said, yes, I planned everything from the beginning? And if somebody said that, does anyone believe them? I feel like it's like, yeah, we'll go to fucking Mali or some shit. I'll figure it out when I get there. It is, even in making videos, like sometimes you'll just put like a music thing in there and it'll like line up perfectly with your narration and you're like, man, somebody's going to think I'm a fucking genius for doing this. And it's like, I was just winging it, brother. So it does feel like sometimes things just fall together like that. And you shouldn't respect him any more or less for it. But you're already talking about the author if you've gotten that far, which I don't like. But Mr. R?
I was going to say, it feels like that broad strokes comment, things do change. I can't remember when it was that Isayama decided to change the ending for the first time. But it is it would be interesting.
That was a talking point way back in the day, so it has to be pretty far back. But also, don't forget the scientist, whatever bloke, alternative ending that I reminded everybody of at some point in this massive fucking
genius
episode 1. But yeah, that was a talking point back in 2014. People would always bring up Isayama said he was gonna have everybody die, and then he changed the ending a little bit.
So wait, what was the scientist thing? Sorry.
Remember the ending that originally supposedly got leaked about the scientist's house getting burned down by religious people, and then he creates Titans because he hates religious people? Do you remember this, Mr. R?
I don't. I was never involved. I was never around for that. I mean, the whole Titan being a science experiment.
It was on this thing. I'm pretty sure you were.
That's the plot line. That's the plot line of Chapter 0, though.
You brought this up exactly.
Oh, okay. Yes, I guess we were discussing it then.
Somebody's just sat through all 7 hours and like, these fucking idiots don't remember what they were talking about.
It's been so many weeks.
Oh wait, was that this session? Oh fuck, was that not this session, but this video?
Session. It was in this video, or it was in the cut content, but I'm pretty sure it was in this video. Well, it might have been in part 1 because we're going to cut this up now. We're giving all the behind-the-scenes information away.
Yep.
Yeah,
The
guys,
last
we've
point-
been
listening
at
at
this
this
for like
point.
5 weeks now trying to record this thing.
Yep.
Lies. It was all recorded in one session. My laptop's now supercharged. We got the last point here, Ari. You got,
All right, we
go
got
ahead.
the last one. The question: is there a story you want to do after finishing Attack on Titan? And his answer was, "There's a story I've had
Oh,
in
yeah,
my
this is
mind since
super
high
interesting.
school. If I get lucky enough for it to be published someday, I hope everyone reads it." And
He's
yeah,
got like
it is
this
interesting.
phantom actual story in the back of his mind since high school. Maybe we'll get it in
Yep.
the near
Well,
future, though. He
there was
did
a
say
feature interview where
he's
he
not
said
doing anything this year.
he'd quite like to work on a black comedy. Like, that's
Yeah,
what he'd like to try
I
his
think we've
hand
also
at.
brought this up in this video, by the way.
Fuck's sakes. I can't remember.
Because
I
I've
don't know
heard you
what's
say
this.
that multiple times.
I don't know what's this video and what's the cut content at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But did he also say something about sci-fi something at some point? I remember people talking about that. I'm telling you, when the Isayama second project starts up and that first chapter comes out, God forgive us, because
crazy.
there'll be theories coming out your ass left and right about how this is fucking time traveling Mikasa here.
It's going to be exciting though to be around for the start of a new Isayama series.
It will be good. It will be fun. If it ever comes, maybe you'll fucking retire. And then Ari's got one last tiny point here where he just copy and pasted the image of Isama's original working space, which is like he's got 2 assistants and 2 desks, and there's a couple of computers, and he has something about UFC in here somewhere because he's a big fucking UFC mark.
He's got MMA written on his sweater, on the back of his sweater.
Yeah. It's too little for me to look at, but I'm sure Mr. R has the volume up.
Only TBS radio is playing. I love PS.
I love penis sororities. Sounds like a contradiction. Wow. Weird. It's weird that he came out with that.
He's got a PS2 in the room.
I got a PS2 in my room too, brother. Let's go.
And that guy's got a 7 on his back, which is based as fuck.
Yep.
Yeah, Sorika 7. It is Rika 7. He is old enough to have worked with Isayama on the manga. That's the big twist at the end. Plot twist. Tease for next episode. Mr. R will reveal all secrets. He will confirm the original leaked ending about the scientist that he doesn't even remember. He's just playing that he doesn't remember because he knows that shit leaked. He leaked it, in fact. He's going to jail next episode.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yikes. But that's all of our fucking notes. We finally arrived at the end. It's been an exhausting process for us over multiple weeks. It probably took you multiple weeks to watch all this shit. I'm talking to you, chat. Does anybody have any outro thoughts? Is there anything potentially you didn't cover that you want to say now or forever hold your peace, at least until the next part comes out?
I don't want to say anything because I've probably already said it, but don't remember.
Ari, do you have anything you want to say again?
I would say that this is some good stuff.
Yes, good Attack on Titan, good 10 out of 10 already. It can only go down from here. Let's see with this female Titan stuff. These 2 parts were on my channel. The next one will not be. I don't know if we've decided whose channels they will be. The channel it'll be on. If it's split into 2 parts, it'll be on that one person's channel. You got to subscribe to all of us to keep up with this shit. There will be a playlist on each one of our channels, hopefully. If we all remember to do it, that should have all of the videos in it. If you're watching this in the future or like you're watching this 3 years from now and you've gone back to the first episode to start, it should be all in a cute little playlist for you.
Watching it 3 years from now, we should just about have part 3 out by then.
Yes, we'll be going strong. Are we talking about the Clash of the Titans? In the future, wow. But yes, we will be back with the female Titan arc at some point, hopefully. Whenever you're hearing this, you probably won't hear this from a week or so after we've finally wrapped this up, because I got to get a whole fucking video out announcing it. The woes of us, we'll deal with that. That being said, fellas, are we ready to do the outro? Put it to rest forever.
Yes.
Yes, let's do this.
I guess do we have to come out with an outro? Do we do it? Like, well, do I say support links in the description below? Thanks. But then what if it's on somebody else's channel next week? I guess that still applies. But like, what do we say? What do we do as an outro?
Oh no, we should have planned this ahead. I don't know. Anything.
Support links in the description below. Thanks.